Hello and welcome back to now episode 4 of the longest game of all time, the 2012 Web Diplomacy World Cup Final. If you are just joining us here, go back and watch the ones before it because this won't make a ton of sense without them. The main thing we learned from that last episode: don't send a French fleet to Syria. You'll just spend the rest of the game moving it all the way back to the Mid-Atlantic Ocean again. I'm here with Ezio, who I forgot to mention in that intro segment, so hello.
We're still the intro section. We haven't left. We're talking about the learnings from the previous one, and one of those learnings is that Ezio exists.
Yes.
It's an important learning.
Ezio does exist, and he's here to provide more expert commentary than I can, specifically with regard to tactics, because he just managed to get a three-way draw with bots. That's something only very skilled players can do.
Got a four-way draw on this last one because Italy was stuck on the one center.
Oh yeah.
Are you referring to the 17-16 one? Because that one took some tactical prowess.
Yeah, I might link that one in the description below if you're actually interested in looking at how Ezio got a 17-16 one-center draw with no stalemate line as the one-center power.
Yeah, let's not link that one. Nope.
No
you
link.
can go find it on my web diplomacy if you want to find it, if y'all are really interested, but
Okay.
no, we're not going to make it easy.
Anyway, this is the game we're focusing on, not bot games. The Web Diplomacy World Cup final. When we left off, Russia was in an insanely good position. Like, I don't think I mentioned it last time as much as I should, but looking at this board, just generally, if you saw this as a random board, you would say immediately, I think this is a Russian solo, right?
Yeah. If you hadn't seen the previous moves and you didn't have the indication that everyone was going to be working against Russia, yeah, I think it would be very likely that Russia solos this board.
Yes.
This is going to take some very good coordination.
If basically anyone works with Russia, they can relatively easily win this, right?
I'm not sure about Turkey.
Oh yeah, okay.
I think Turkey might not be able to throw it, but it's possible, honestly. Right? That extra fleet's a big deal.
Yep. And this is mainly because, look, so the Russian position is always interesting in these kind of games because it straddles the stalemate line. You have the main stalemate line usually goes up here, so between the Mid-Atlantic Ocean and St. Petersburg up at the top. Whereas obviously Russia is on two sides of that. If they get to a strong position where they control, well, they sort of reach around both sides, they can just collapse in. There's no stalemate line you can use to hold them. You have to actively fight them back, which is much harder to do. So we've got to see whether these powers will be able to pull that off and stop the Russian. Is there anything you want to talk about in this winter phase before we move on to the spring, Ezio?
I just want to talk about some of the tactics around the North Sea. Because it's actually really interesting. And the German disband of the army in Holland, I believe, is a pretty significant mistake. I believe he should have disbanded either Brest or Munich here. Perhaps not Munich, because Munich's important, but probably just Brest, because you really, really want to be able to convoy Holland around. You want to be able to convoy Holland while support holding the North Sea, because there's only 3 hostile fleets adjacent to the North Sea. So, hypothetically, you could do a moveset where Helgoland Bight supports the North Sea, Belgium supports the North Sea, convoy Holland to Norway, while North Sea does that also. And it's very likely for Russia to try to take the North Sea here while moving St. Petersburg to Norway, and you would just bounce that. Alternatively, if you want to be a little more aggressive, you could go after Yorkshire with a convoy instead and get your army onto the English mainland to coordinate with the French fleet in North Atlantic Ocean, which could also be a French fleet in Irish Sea, depending on Mid-Atlantic Ocean, and yada, yada, yada. But just tactically, I think you really, really want to have an army that you can convoy. You can technically convoy Kiel, but then Helgoland Bight also has to do the convoy, and that sucks.
Yeah, I think the big worry with disbanding Brest is that France is just getting back on the board, and you kind of just let them take their home centers back if you do that, right?
I think you convince France, hey, if you take Brest, Russia solos, so don't take Brest.
It's always a good argument, yeah. So yeah, like the power of convoying is pretty strong. Obviously, he can still convoy through Kiel, but then you have to use Heligoland for that, and that's painful because that's a fleet you really want to support hold.
Also, then, can't be support holding Denmark. Now, support holding Denmark isn't the most important thing in the world here because it has the retreat to Sweden always available, but options are nice sometimes.
Yeah. Right. Well, let's go through and see what the German actually decides to do then. In spring 1931, I had to pause for a second there because that's not a date I'm used to saying in these commentaries. But yes.
For good reason.
So, anything that stands out to you right off the bat?
Trying to support from the North Sea into English Channel. Yeah. He still tried to support on the North Sea. Tried to support from because Baltic Sea can cut Denmark. And so this didn't stop Russia from taking the North Sea if Russia was interested. Russia got into English Channel, and Russia got into Norway, and there's no army much. France does get back into Liverpool, which is the biggest takeaway from the north.
Yeah, it's a free walk into Liverpool as well, right? They don't even need to support that.
Atlantic Ocean can go to anywhere else.
Yeah, and yes, so as you're saying, this is quite a bad order set from the German, just because you can't ever expect that North Sea doesn't get cut here, right? Using it to support is just ouch, which is exactly why you kind of want it there to convoy, why you want the army to convoy, because that's something you can do while holding the unit without, it being cut or anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we looked at this, if he'd done something like Belgium support North Sea to the English Channel, Helgoland Bight support Denmark to the North Sea, I would have liked a new order set like that more, because that covers North Sea with strength 2, forcing Russia to use strength 3 to take the North Sea. As we said, support holding Denmark's not that important because Denmark can retreat to Sweden, but whatever, it is what it is. And honestly, letting Russia out of Wales is remarkably effective, because if the unit was in Wales, then France would have to support themselves into Liverpool, but now they don't. So it's maybe less bad than I was giving it credit for.
Yeah. Unintended good consequences, I think. If you were deliberately trying to let Russia out of Wales, then you would probably want to just support hold North Sea or something.
Probably.
Rather than actively trying to bounce them.
Yeah, this doesn't look like that was the intent, but just because you didn't try to do something doesn't make what happened any different, right? Your intentions don't matter on the diplomacy board. What matters is what the position looks like after the moves, and the position after this honestly looks pretty fine for the anti-Russian efforts in the north. And in the south, I think things actually went even better. If I'm reading this correctly, Bulgaria got disbanded by the Austrian, and Austria is still in Budapest. They only lost Vienna, but it looks like it's likely recapture of Vienna. I can't be guaranteed if they want it, but yeah, guesses and stuff.
Yeah, it seems like they were trying to force this unit in Tyrolia to make sure that it can't do anything more. But this is something they would have to have talked about in public press because it's a public press game. You can't coordinate this much with the German and with the Italians. They cover every province, without talking to them. So Russia did the only thing they possibly could to get that unit out, which was supporting it into the province that Austria was self-bouncing here.
Yeah, they could have countered this by having Bohemia support Budapest into Vienna, which still guarantees that Tyrolia gets popped. And frankly, I think if they were doing this again, they would have flipped the tactics. They would have had Austria support Munich into Tyrolia, and then Bohemia supports Budapest into Vienna. Because the downside of that is that Galicia gets to walk into Budapest, but you're guaranteed still to destroy Tyrolia. Because Galicia could support Tyrolia into Bohemia, to avoid the disband, but then they're not walking into Budapest.
Yeah,
But like that's better. You'd rather them walk into Bohemia than walk into Vienna.
this is true.
Is basically the point. And the reason why you would then flip it is because if you had done this support, but Bohemia was supporting Budapest into Vienna, if Galicia walks into Budapest, then there's no way to recapture Budapest at all. Uh, there's just not even two units adjacent. Whereas the other way, if there's still an army in Trieste, then Trieste and um, Vienna could then coordinate on Budapest.
Yeah, you would need a unit to cut Romania as well, but they've got that in Bulgaria, right? It leaves...
Yes.
Well, no, that leaves Serbia undefended. It's awkward all around, but yes, it would certainly have left them in a more defensible position than...
And like the way the orders set smooth, if they had done that support instead, then they just pop Tyrolia and keep Budapest and everything's glorious. Mm-hmm. But it's still fine.
Yep. So
are they gonna let Venice back into Trieste to cover the retreat? Do you think that's gonna be their agreement?
So I feel like they should. Whether this Austrian will let them is another question entirely. Because he's been very, like, anti-Italy taking anything, right, up to this point? I actually can't remember exactly what's gone on so far, but I remember, like, he has been pretty bloodthirsty and brutal to get back to this point. And honestly, deserves massive props for that, given he was on one centre, was it 6 years ago? Something like that. But yeah, so... I would probably expect the Austrian to cover Trieste himself. We'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, it's just awkward because for Austria to cover Trieste himself, he would need to use Tyrolia or Budapest, right?
Yep. Tyrolia, right? If he goes with Budapest, then he loses Budapest.
Look, man, I'm just saying, he has two options, all right? One of them is a better option, but he needs to use one of the two. And, like, if you assume that you're going to bounce in Trieste, which is a relatively reasonable assumption, then you wouldn't necessarily lose Budapest. But you're probably... Look, man. Okay, yeah, he would be...
See,
aren't you losing Budapest anyways?
I expect the Russian to support Vienna to Budapest here, right? Because then the only counter that actually keeps all the Austrian centres is supporting Budapest to Vienna with 2, plus having the Italian cover Trieste, which I think is the most likely.
You could do Bohemia to Galicia, Romania to Serbia, Budapest support Tyrolia to Vienna, and then do the same. And then you cut both supports, you retake Vienna, and you pop him out. And you pop. I think he should still do it, but it's not... I think Bulgaria cutting Romania is not a guarantee in this situation.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean...
Although I also have Greece supported G into Bulgaria in the meantime, but hey.
Yeah. I mean, is there a ton more to talk about here? The French are actually, like, getting somewhere now. They're about to get a build.
Right? Spain's south coast instead of Mid-Atlantic Ocean. What's that about?
I mean, maybe going for Tunis? That's opportunistic, but...
That's a potential build, but I expect this going to Mid-Atlantic Ocean now. I think it was debating going to Tunis, and then it's like, oh, there's a Russian in English Channel. Let's not let him get into the Mid-Atlantic Ocean.
Yep.
Let's avoid that.
Well, see,
so let's take it.
It's either that, or he saw this conversation about Tyrolia and that the Italian was going to Piedmont. He's like, I don't want to just let the Italian walk into my last remaining home centre, right?
Yeah, that's fair. Do you think he's going to cover Mid-Atlantic Ocean with North Atlantic Ocean or Irish Sea now?
Yeah, that feels painful.
I want that fleet in Norwegian.
Yep. I think it's most likely he covers it with Spain, but there's a good chance he just goes to... Well, no, because you don't want to cover Marseille either, because that stops your build. Yeah. This is the painful goings-on of, like, not having enough home supply centers.
Yeah, so this is where something like chainsaw diplomacy works. If you, like, insult Italy a lot, right, and you, like, make Italy think you're an idiot with no sense of anything, then you need to figure out how good of a player Italy is, right? Because if you know they're trying to attack you, then you can get into how good are they to guess, instead of trying to figure out are they attacking you or not. And then if they're attacking me, how good are they at guessing, right? You just know they're attacking you, see. But, I don't know. I have no idea. I wouldn't cover Marseille. There's no way Italy's attacking Marseille. Not a chance.
Okay, well, I mean, is there anything else to discuss here, or shall we go ahead and see whether that prediction is correct?
How long do we think Turkey's going to stay on this board?
I mean, no.
That's the only other thing.
I can't imagine anyone kills him right now, right? Doesn't make much sense with the Russians still in Eastern Mediterranean.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see.
Let's do it.
Okay, so fall 1931 here. Things we see. No unit going to Marseille. So you were correct on that prediction, and the Frenchman covers Mid-Atlantic Ocean. The German pulls North Sea back into Skagerrak. Was that the right choice?
Look, man, we know how I feel about the North Sea, and we know how this German feels about the North Sea, and we accept that these are two very different feelings about the North Sea.
Yeah. Like,
namely, I like it, and this Germany doesn't.
So, was there a good way for him to keep North Sea here? He would have had to support it with... No, there was no way he was holding North, I think.
Yeah, it was literally impossible.
So, let's... so where do you want that unit? Skagerrak seems actually reasonable.
I think you would let it retreat. Don't move it. Just, like, have it do some nonsense, but let it retreat.
Maybe this was, like, a cut on Skagerrak, with the hope of retreating, but obviously it just went through.
Yeah, I mean, it retreating to Skagerrak wouldn't be the worst, but I think if we were choosing where we'd retreat it to, we'd probably retreat it to Yorkshire. So this seems fine.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
I remember harping a lot on Russia not moving to Sweden all those years ago.
Yep.
And just really, really feeling it here. Because Russia should be going +1 in the north, getting Denmark. But instead, just staying neutral, because that retreat to Sweden is just... Ugh.
Yep.
Ugh.
And, like, as we were saying before, like, this was last episode, but if Russia had made slightly different moves before, they would either be in Baltic Sweden or Skagerrak Sweden here, and that would be such a better position for taking Denmark from, just because you don't get this annoying retreat. Sure, that German fleet is still on the board somewhere, but it's not in your centre, which is the important thing.
Yeah, and then Germany goes down 1, and then there aren't any problems.
Yep. So the other interesting thing in the north here is France deciding to take Liverpool using North Atlantic Ocean instead of Irish Sea here and not going to Norwegian.
Yeah, this indicates to me that they just really want to take English Channel, which is, I think, a totally reasonable play.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, why didn't they support that, though?
Support? Why did they both cut English Channel?
Yeah.
Well, probably. So, if I remember correctly, this French player's NMR'd like 4 times this game. Maybe 5? It might be 5 times. She's NMR'd a lot this game. And so it's plausible, if I was Germany, I would not particularly want to support France into the English Channel, because I really want English Channel to get cut. So
right, yes.
That's my prediction.
Just in case it was an NMR. I mean, also there's the downside that then France has fleet, Mid-Atlantic Ocean fleet, English Channel.
Yeah, but like, again, we're not really in position for anyone else to fight Russia. For anyone to fight anyone except Russia.
Yeah,
excuse me.
But,
we're all in on attacking Russia.
Yeah, right? I suppose France has, I assume, Army Marseille here, right? It has to be Army Marseille.
What?
No?
Hold up. Why are we building an army?
What, would you build a fleet here as France?
If I was France in this position, I would say, Germany, We're going to war with Russia.
Yeah,
I'm building a fleet.
yeah, but you want your home centers back at some point. You're never going to get them back if you don't build an army.
What do you mean? We can take Brest whenever we want. We'll be in English Channel, Mid-Atlantic Ocean.
Okay, sure.
When we take Brest, we can build an army.
But what are you going to do with that fleet? It feels
With
so
which
useless. The new fleet's
In the
in
Mid-Atlantic
Warsaw.
Ocean.
You
It's
just...
gonna get to Norwegian Sea in like 2 years, man.
Alright. I will concede this. But I guess
Dude,
we'll
it
see
just-
what they do.
Like, balance is overrated. We're France. We've got Iberia, and we've got Liverpool. What's an army gonna do?
You're gonna need the armies eventually. But yes, I suppose you can wait on taking back stuff like Brest. I just like having the option to... Like, I want those home centers back as quickly as possible, to be honest. But yes, this is a delicate
if you're
balance.
playing France, I'm gonna be scared because you're gonna throw to Russia.
This is probably true, actually. This is why, like, these were very highly skilled players, and that's why we've seen what we have seen, right? When France got ahead right at the start, everyone united against them. When Russia gets ahead here, everyone unites against them again. And I mean, we've seen some bad play, but it's always important to remember that, like, these players are very, very good, and it's very easy for us to sit here and say, oh, that was wrong.
Great, now we'll talk about how good these players are. Let's look at the tactics in the East, shall we?
Okay.
Because this is a yikes of a turn from Austria, particularly. So, looking at these moves, what is the best case scenario for Austria?
Okay, so, well, first thing first, I think that Trieste was probably offered to the Italian, right? Or the Italian wanted to cover Trieste from the Russian with the whole, okay, Austria, you take Vienna kind of thing, and Austria wasn't happy with that, so bounced it. And that was what
but
caused...
Piedmont also cut Tyrolia.
Yeah, okay, so you would expect then Tyrolia would be going to Vienna probably in this arranged deal, right? And...
Okay.
Well, no, because that doesn't work, because Cilicia is cutting... Okay, I have no idea what they arranged here. But whatever the case, it ends up being terrible for the Austrian, because best case scenario, Vienna does... If Vienna goes to Budapest, then at least you evac Budapest into Romania, but then you dislodge it into Serbia, which is not... Like... It's not covered anyway. Yeah. It's difficult to figure out what the point of this moveset was.
Austria gained Bulgaria and gained Romania, but lost Vienna, Budapest, and Serbia.
Yeah.
So Austria is back to 0 home centers, and is down 1 on the year.
No, he still has Trieste. And he still has Tunis.
Oh, I thought Trieste was Italian right now.
No.
Excuse me,
he
you're
bounced
right. He
it.
still does have Trieste.
And he has Tunis for some reason. so he gets to keep 4 units. But they're not in good positions, to say the least. I don't know...
Romania and Bulgaria are useful in this war against Russia. Bohemia is Bohemia, and Tyrolia is annoying.
Yeah.
But Fleet Eastern Med? I don't know. Is Austrian ever going to be able to build a fleet again? I have no idea.
I mean, there's a long time to go. But yeah, so this move to Romania would be fantastic if Russia isn't getting any builds, but I think they are, right? Because they got Bulgaria blown up. And they just took Vienna, Budapest, and Serbia, which is...
So they lost Livonia... they lost Liverpool, excuse me.
Yep.
They traded Denmark and Sweden, so that's neutral, so -1. And then +3 from the Austrians, and that +2, and then -2 from Romania and Bulgaria, but they blew something up.
Yeah. So Army Sevastopol is a thing that's going to happen.
Could even be Fleet Sev, but Army Sev is certainly better. Probably. Army Warsaw.
Yeah.
There's some shenanigans that could happen.
So this is another thing we haven't talked about. Cilicia gets knocked out of Cilicia and back into Warsaw here. So the German is starting to make progress on the mainland. It's not fast progress, but
It's fast enough. Russia has no units to defend.
Yep.
Right? They have just this army in Warsaw, and if they build anything in Sev, then Prussia and Livonia are awkward, and Sev needs to go back to Moscow anyways to cover Warsaw.
Yeah, so maybe they just build Army Moscow then and use it
Maybe they were supposed to retreat into Prussia and build Army Warsaw. Maybe that was their line.
Might have been. It's... Yeah, they could have held that, I think. It gets really awkward in the north just because of how messed up all these units are. Like, there's a German behind the lines in Sweden, there's German in Skagerrak.
Bear with me. Bear with me. If Germany's not in Sweden and Russia's actually +1 on the year and they can build Army Warsaw and Army Sev, whoa.
Yep, that would have been huge.
Maybe they solo that game. But that's not the game we're living in.
Yeah, it also turns out Smyrna to Armenia would probably be much better than Smyrna to Syria here. Syria, usually a good place to go if you're trying to dissuade a Lepanto, but as in a convoy over to Syria, but there's nothing they can convoy over right now anyway.
Yeah. I mean, is Italy building? No.
Nope.
Because if Italy could have built an army in Naples, then there would have been potential of some nonsense, but Italy's not. Yeah, I don't know, man. I like being in Syria, honestly. Syria fills me with joy.
Maybe that French fleet has inspired everyone to go on pilgrimages.
Dude, I gotta color the map my color, not get rid of that stupid French color in those territories.
That doesn't work on Backstabber, but yes, this game was played on webDiplomacy, where the non-SCs also get colored in when you go to them. An important thing to consider, because I think Syria was still French colored until this happened.
Yeah.
Maybe that was what they were doing. They just wanted to color in that side of the map.
Yeah, maybe.
But yes.
Alright, let's look at what Russia actually decides to build, and if France puts a fleet in Marseille, and what Austria takes off.
Oh, Eastern Mediterranean comes off here. And we do get Army Sevastopol, not Army Moscow, so Russia has a really weak core here. They may lose these, at least Warsaw to the German.
I think Warsaw needs to support Prussia, Baltic Sea to Prussia. I think that needs to happen.
That would save it, but then that's one less fleet to deal with this conglomeration of German fleets up here.
Yeah.
And we do see that you were correct with the fleet Marseille, and this is the French player going, I'm going to follow Ezio's strategy and not let Russia solo, rather than following Meme's strategy and taking my home centers back.
Yeah.
Right.
France has a really nice turn here.
Yeah.
France is probably going to take London this year. Not probably. France could totally take London this year.
Yeah, depends on
Irish
them.
Irish supports Mid-Atlantic to Wales, the Mid-Atlantic Ocean English Channel, and then Liverpool to Wales, and you got 2 on London, and you've got Belgium easily able to cut North Sea. So Edinburgh would need to move to Yorkshire to cover London in that world. Or I suppose North Sea to Yorkshire, but...
English Channel to Wales this turn would also do it, right?
There's not a chance that happens. Not in a million years.
Well, I mean, if they spotted the same thing you did.
Right. Yeah, but they don't. They didn't. They're not going to make that move. There's not a chance in hell they make that move.
Righto. Eastern Med seems like the correct choice from Austria here, right?
I mean, you're Austria, you've got 4 units, you want 4 armies. You just lost Vienna, Budapest. If you want to take them back, you kind of need your armies.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Can we see coordination between Austria and Italy this turn? Can we see Bohemia support Tyrolia to Vienna while Venice covers Trieste? Is there a world where that happens?
I mean, I think Austria must be happier to let Italy go for Trieste now that Austria can't really do anything to defend it, right? Against these 3 Russian units.
Yeah, but those Russian units have other things to do, right? Like Budapest needs to either cover Galicia or support Sev to Rum. Uh,
Yeah, it's such a weird situation for the Russian because they have so many units behind their lines. Technically, well, I mean, either you count Vienna, Budapest, and Serbia as Russian units behind enemy lines, or you count Romania and Bulgaria and I guess Aegean, although probably not Aegean, as units behind the Russian line here. And units behind the line are so awkward to deal with. You cannot mop up Romania and Bulgaria from this position. It's just not possible.
yeah, you need more units to do it. Like, if there was theoretically an extra unit in Moscow this turn that could cover Ukraine, then you could do something like Vienna to Galicia while Budapest supports Sev to Romania, and then you're going to pop Romania probably. They would need to support Romania to Serbia, but Khan can cut that. Yeah, if Khan cuts that, you're just fine.
Yeah.
And then boom, Romania gets popped.
Yep.
And then once you're in Romania, of course, Bulgaria is not long for this. I mean, it's remarkably long for this world. I spoke a little early.
Because of the two fleets adjacent to it, right?
Because of the two fleets adjacent to it, and I was thinking that Smyrna cuts Aegean, but then oops, Aegean taps Khan, and now we go merry-go-round.
Yep. And
but you could still pop Bulgaria.
As Russia, you're happier having an Austrian unit in Bulgaria than you would be having that Italian fleet in Con, because if that Italian fleet gets to Con, it's going to Black Sea, and Black Sea is not a position you want that Italian fleet in.
Yeah. Now, like, there's a world where this happens when you're building in Sev in the same fall, and if you do it in the fall, then you can build a fleet in Sev and then bounce the Black Sea while you retake Con. And then the fleet never makes it to the Black Sea. In that position, I think you'd prefer, but that's like a ways away, and we don't have enough units anyways. Just the world that we're living in, Romania is probably going to get into Ukraine, and that's just bad news bears.
Yep. Oh man, this would be so different if Syria was in Armenia. You could rotate Sevastopol to Ukraine and then Armenia up to Sevastopol.
Yeah, there's not enough units.
I bet Russia is wishing they did that, especially with the blowing up of Eastern Mediterranean. But it's in hindsight.
That army Syria looks terrible with nothing in Eastern Med. But who knows if they would have blown up Eastern Med if you're in Armenia? They probably would still.
Yeah, I think they definitely would. But you can't have predicted that you would get Vienna, Budapest, Serbia here, so we can't lay that on.
And you lose Romania, right? Because if you don't lose Romania, right, if you're expecting that to bounce in Serbia, then your position looks way more stable because you have the line still, right? Sev could support hold Romania against anything in Serbia, and then you're just fine.
Yeah. So, like, as much criticism as we're giving the Austrian here, their position isn't that bad for stopping the Russian solo. It's just terrible for, like, them personally in the... How are they going to get their home centers back? It's going to take a while.
Well, I think Vienna's likely, right?
Yeah.
Romania cuts Budapest, and if they support themselves into Vienna, they get back in there.
But, like, you don't get builds, because you need to get the Italians to cover Trieste.
Sorry, are we talking about building, or are we talking about retaking our home centers? See, these are two different things.
If he had kept his home centers, he would have a chance of building.
Oh, yeah, but he's not building, not for a few years.
Yep, that's the issue. Shall we...
Only a few years.
Shall we go to spring here?
Let's see it.
Alright, let's start in the east this time around. And the Italian doesn't actually cover Trieste, but they do get into position to actually force it, so that's the thing.
Probably even worse.
I mean, they could have disbanded that Russian army here. They
could have.
This might end up being bad, and okay, there's a lack of coordination here because the Italian also tried to support the Austrian into Constantinople, right? And that didn't go through. The Austrian went the other way. And well, no. I guess that, like, okay, so the Italian fleet was getting cut, so it didn't matter anyway. And the Austrian always wants to go the other way because they're trying to protect Romania, right? Oh, man.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, probably.
Russia's playing this all-out defensive, With Sevastopol going to Ukraine, that's their guess for this turn. Between whether Austria would go to Sevastopol or Ukraine. Obviously, Austria did neither. Syria heads back up to Armenia, so now they're able to sort of clamp those units together up at the top and make a decent line. Self-bouncing Galicia is just a thing to stop anything advancing to there, although I don't see what would have advanced to there anyway. Feels like they could have done something better with Budapest here. And then they self-bounce on Bulgaria, which is presumably just the thing to make sure that the Italian doesn't take Constantinople. Which you could have managed anyway with Smyrna support hold Constantinople, but then Con couldn't have tapped Bulgaria from the other side, so very defensive moves despite the number of movement arrows you're seeing.
Yeah, I really like the Sev to Ukraine move here. Because if Germany had moved into Prussia, totally plausible, and if Austria had left Romania back to Serbia, which I think was actually impossible to sort of set, but like if we don't expect Austria to use Romania to cut Ukraine, then Ukraine can also support hold Warsaw. And we were discussing how annoying it would be for the Austrian army to be in Ukraine, but this cleanly solved it. Only way was if Austria had guessed to move to Sev, but I don't believe that was ever happening.
I mean, if it did happen, it would have been a problem. But
it would have been a problem, but remarkably a similar problem to the army in Ukraine. More of a problem, definitely, but not that much more.
Actually, with the German not advancing, it's certainly not as much of a problem, yeah, because you could cover Moscow and, hope for a bounce and then support yourself up to Sevastopol, and at least get rid of the Austrian unit, even if it loses you Warsaw. But yeah, so is there much else?
Italy's going to take Trieste next turn, right? That's just what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And Austria's going to have to be okay with that.
Because it's either that or the Russian gets it, right? Italy's
Maybe
this is smart play on Italy's part, getting into this position because now the Austrian can't really demand Trieste back.
Dude, if I'm Austria, I'm so tempted to support hold Trieste here.
Oh.
I'm unbelievably tempted to support hold Trieste here.
That feels wrong from the person who's saying that France should not go for their home centres.
No, I'm saying that if I was in France's position, I'd feel differently. But if I'm in Austria's position and Italy's still trying to play this game, this nonsense game about Trieste, I'm just going to say, look, you needed to go to Trieste this turn. That needed to be that needed to be the deal, so we popped this army, but you didn't. You're trying to take it with an army or some crap. Get out of here. Shut the... No. You don't get to take Trieste like this. You had a job to do. That was to pop this army.
The more fun way to do that would be Tyrolia to Venice. And then, if the Italian goes in with their army, which is presumably what they're sending in, you just swap home supply centers instead of...
Instead of giving it to the Russian.
And yeah, you still get rid of the Russian unit, although it can retreat to Tyrolia there, which is a little bit of an issue. Because that was the entire reason we got into this position in the first place, the Russian army being in Tyrolia.
Yeah, but this is why I think that they should have found a way to get Austria to take Vienna from Tyrolia, while Piedmont backfills Tyrolia and Venice covers Trieste. Right? That's so much cleaner, because then they pop the army. Their army is still in Bohemia, able to pressure Galicia. It just works so much better. But instead, they're just stuck in this terrible situation where Italy's like, "Hey, I'm going to take Trieste, and I let that Russian unit stay alive, so you're not guaranteed Serbia or anything. Get wrecked, son." And I'm like, you know what, Italy? You know what? No. That's what I want to say so badly.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of things about Italy here, though, you see that our side fleet, what that's doing. that is not going to Mid-Atlantic Ocean.
Dude, look, man. France, please, get that fleet to Norwegian Sea. Please. I beg.
I would not be surprised if that French fleet goes to Tyrrhenian Sea next turn, given it's completely open, right?
And then what? Ionian,
Probably
and then
just.
Eastern Med, and then back to Syria. I'm glad you mentioned this, me. It never occurred to me that he would be attempting to make his way back to Syria.
He's
Boy.
like, the Russian coloured by province, I need to turn it blue again.
Of course. Right.
But no, I'm thinking specifically Tunis, right? It's such an easy supply center to take, although...
But the Austrian units are so important. They're the most important units on the board against Russia, by far.
This is true, but you kind of assume that Austria will stabilize by the time you get there, to some degree.
Really?
Okay, you can always make a judgment call once you're in Tyrrhenian Sea.
Sure. Are we going to go to Ionian Sea, or are we going to just sit in Tunis? Okay.
But actually, it might not be a thing at all, because we see Munich move to Burgundy in the meantime, so I think that French fleet might have to go back.
Speaking of which, why is Munich going to Burgundy?
That's a good question. I would be much more understanding of it if it was an army in Marseille, yeah, but that is a fleet, not an army.
No, that unit's not doing jack. Munich, why aren't you in Bohemia? If you're in Bohemia, then our complaints about taking Vienna from Bohemia are completely nullified because there's still armies in all the spots, but you didn't.
So, all in all, actually, we haven't talked a ton about what happened here.
We haven't said anything in the north.
Well, yeah, in the north, the German order set is incredibly passive. It's like, okay, I'm holding Berlin here, I'm moving Munich to Burgundy for some reason, and then I'm just going to support Sweden down to Baltic. He's trying to consolidate what he has, I guess, and get that unit back together, but he's just... like, he's given up the opportunity to get into Prussia here, when he could easily have held this unit in Kiel from Munich. Admittedly, if he dislodged Baltic that way, it could then retreat to Berlin, which is probably what he was trying to prevent. But it just feels so bad using this many units to dislodge one unit that's not even going off the board, it's going to Bothnia.
Yeah, and also... I feel like he was planning on taking Denmark. Like, this moveset to me looks like, right, Sweden cuts Baltic Sea, and then Kiel supports Skagerrak to Denmark, and then Belgium taps North Sea, and then you're probably getting into Denmark unless they specifically have Norway support Denmark to Skagerrak, right? But, like, he didn't do that. Instead, he gave himself a retreat location for his fleet in Skagerrak, which is good, because he got into the Baltic Sea. He didn't guarantee it, right, because Skagerrak cut North Sea instead of Denmark, right? If Skagerrak had cut Denmark, then, like, again, there could have been North Sea supports Denmark to Skagerrak, while Norway supports Baltic to Sweden or something, right? Some order set like that could have theoretically happened to dislodge and disband Skagerrak, but instead, we're kind of in position to retake Denmark, right? Like, yes, we're going to lose Sweden to do it, but, like, we are going to retake Denmark now? Probably. Maybe
this ended up being a good idea then, because if you can retake Denmark, surely that's a better position for you, just consolidating units of your line here, rather than having all these Russian fleets in Baltic Denmark, you know, potential to go to Heligoland, although it's going to get dislodged into Heligoland Bight. This is a problem that always gives a province that always gives me problems.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird one.
Yeah.
So the move that I want to talk the most about is Munich to Burgundy, right?
Yep.
So I think he was worried about Belgium. I think that's what his number one concern was. But Munich should have done one of two things. One, and I believe the better option, is just go to Ruhr.
Yep.
Because Ruhr can cover Belgium, but it also covers Holland and Kiel. Ruhr is just... if you're going to war with these fleets in the north, you want Ruhr. You don't want Burgundy. Burgundy is what you do if you're worried about Marseille. But you're not, so just go to Ruhr. Alternatively, if you decide that you don't care that much about the lowlands and the way that these fleet war goes, you could have done Silesia to Prussia, Munich to Silesia, or Munich to Bohemia. I would rather have done Silesia to Prussia, Munich to Silesia, but obviously in this moveset with Russia, that would have gone worse. But, like, you don't need that much to defend the lowlands. Brest can cover Belgium still, and, like, I'd be really tempted to get that unit into the east to go after this really weak Russia core that we talked about all of last phase, with only the units defending are Warsaw and Sevastopol. If you get 2 armies over there, you can just take Warsaw frequently.
Yep, and you might even be able to push that back into Moscow. Obviously, that's a lot more difficult, but given the state of the Russian units in Austria, I don't think it's impossible if you can get Austrian help.
Absolutely, and like all of these Austrian home centers are potentially juicy if you can get into Bohemia. Like, less likely again. That's why I think that the Silesia to Prussia, meaning Silesia, was the best line. But regardless of that, that's a more strategic argument. Do you want the army in the east or do you want the army in the west? I think even if you make the same strategic claim of I want the army in the west, you want it in Ruhr, not Burgundy.
Yep. Literally the only advantage I can see to Burgundy over Ruhr is the fact that it can take Marseille, and you do not want to be telling the French player here that you are potentially taking Marseille, right? They'll just take Brest off of you.
Oh, you're potentially taking Marseille? Well, I'm walking into Brest.
Yep.
Ooh.
Although,
in the meantime, France is walking into London.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, they can't 100% take London.
North Sea left. Wales supports English
London.
London.
They can. North Sea is gone. Yes.
This is why the North Sea is an important unit. But no one in this game values the North Sea. Just nobody gives a rat's ass about it. No one cares about the North Sea.
I mean, it's arguable that you could, that North Sea wasn't as great for Russia in this position because they can't really do a whole lot with it. It doesn't have the backup to hold these English centres for long. Against the number of French fleets that are about to come through, plus all the German ones tapping it from the other side. So Russia has clearly decided with this, I'm not going to bother with England, I am just going to consolidate Scandinavia.
Yeah, I mean, that's a line. It's not how you're going to solo, but I mean, you can make it.
Yeah, I mean, it might be how you solo if the solo takes a lot longer.
Yeah, okay.
Which is going to be a recurring point during this game.
When I am at 14 centers, I'm not thinking about the long-term solo. I'm thinking of how do I get the next dot? How do I get the next... If I'm in Russia, right? If I'm at other centers, right, other countries that I'm at 14, yeah, I need to think about how do I get past the stalemate line, what position do I need to get on the board to get me past the stalemate line, who do I not want to be working with, who do I want to be working with, etc. But Russia here, you're just like, no, I'm at 14, if I take any 4 centers on the board, of which I have access to like 12 reasonably likely ones, sure.
Yeah.
We can do it.
It's difficult in that it's hard to count those centers precisely. It's difficult to see what centers you'll actually be able to pick up in this situation because everything is such a chaotic mess. But
absolutely,
yeah, I guess we've probably discussed as much as we can in this phase, right? Or at least as much as we should. If we're gonna keep this as reasonable.
I want to see Austria support Hold Trieste.
Yeah. Let's see what the Austrian decides to do then.
No, they did a much better idea. Much better idea.
They just got the Italian to support them in. Okay.
France didn't walk into London.
Oh no. Okay, we see another French NMR.
Oh my god, that's adorable.
That is a badly timed NMR from France.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of convoying Germany to London. German builds are important here. I agree with that analysis. But like, man,
it does require the French player to enter orders. Yeah.
Oh man.
And like Burgundy turns out to not be important because the difference between Burgundy and Ruhr, because it just goes to Belgium anyway.
Yeah.
But then it really should have been in rear in the first place so as not to anger France. Maybe this was France's angry response to Army Burgundy. It's like, I'm not going to enter all this space.
Yeah, I'm not gonna take London for myself because you moved into Burgundy. Like, whatever. Fine.
Oof. This really hurts France in particular, right? Because they could have...
Yeah, 'cause she could have been +1 and now he's not.
Yeah. I mean, at least here you have an excuse to build an army, right? You've got 4 fleets. And Germany just went into Burgundy and has a unit in Picardy.
Yeah, my excuse would be, hey guys, I'm just moving it to Gascony. I'm definitely convoying it over to the English mainland. Yep.
They would probably request that you move it to Spain instead, right? But
well,
yeah, even either way, you couldn't get away with building an army there.
Yeah, I think you can build an army here.
Right.
Well, no, I moved Gulf of Leon into Spain's south coast. Oh, baby, that's the play, right? You only take London from this, but then you keep your fleet in Gulf of Leon. You screw that up, and then you say, oops, Gulf of Leon's going to Spain, Marseille's going to Gascony. Yep. Boom.
Right.
And then I probably would convoying it to the British mainland anyways.
Gotcha.
I want an army over there. But, sorry, that's a whole other world. France doesn't get built.
No builds
so
for France.
Retook Denmark, right?
Yep. They got into Prussia, which is nice, but not in time. Yeah, I mean, is Russia getting built here? They're probably not, right?
Well, I have to look at the south before I make that analysis.
Okay, let's not look at that yet.
Yeah, Russia's currently net neutral in the north.
Yeah,
because of the French Empire.
They managed to take Sweden here, and it's just a big circle of moves because the German unit ends up retreating to Bothnia, which is the Russian goes back to Baltic, which is going to be annoying for the German. The German goes to Denmark, and Denmark goes to Sweden. So.
Yep.
And
at some point, you got to not take the guaranteed, and you got to make some guesses. But if you always take the guaranteed, then they'll always keep position, and you know what? It works out.
Yep. But at least they both have a slightly neater position now, apart from that German army and German fleet in Bothnia. And Russia took your advice and went, okay, North Sea is quite important. Also, I don't want Belgium to be force disbanded. I think I'll just push it back instead of bothering to try and defend London. Ended up being definitely the right choice.
Ended up being fantastic, right? London can't do anything.
Yep.
Yeah, there would have been some nonsense. Holland support English Channel to North Sea. Picardy support Burgundy to Belgium. Wales to London. Man, just pop it. But it's fine.
But yeah, that's pretty much
look at this south now,
all there is to talk about in the north. Yeah, so if we move over to the south here, the big thing was that Austrian moved to Trieste. Managed to get the Italian to support him.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Russia lost Vienna and Trieste was already Austrian. So just lost Vienna, but gained Romania. So in the south, Russia is
gained
neutral as well.
No, and kept Budapest and kept Serbia, right? Yes, so they are neutral overall, I think.
Could have been down 1, but not. Oh man, that's important too. What would Russia have disbanded even?
It's a really difficult choice because probably Sevastopol,
Norway.
Right? It's. I think it's Sevastopol.
Interesting.
And maybe it's one of the fleets, given how many fleets Russia has.
If I assume that France is going to NMR again, could probably disband Yorkshire.
Yeah, but they're probably not, right? They've come back every single time.
Who knows, man? Oh, you know what? If you NMR twice on webdip, you go into civil disorder, right?
Yes.
So I don't think it can NMR a second time. All right. Never mind, you gotta keep that fleet.
So the moves in the Austrian homeland are a little bit. Well, they're not really that complicated here, but the Russian guess is as correct as they can, I think. Cutting Vienna here, supporting themselves into Romania, it leaves an open retreat for Trieste, which was exactly what the Italian was trying to prevent with this Adriatic to Albania move. And yeah, works out perfectly on their parts. And of course they tap Bulgaria to make sure that nothing gets into Constantinople here.
Yeah, I mean, just seems solid moves all around here.
Yep.
I think it was a reasonable attempt from Austria to support Romania into Budapest. If Trieste doesn't cut it, then you're fine. Just Trieste is always going to cut it. But what else is Vienna going to do anyways? Right?
Yeah, I mean, Trieste might not have cut it if Austria had offered a support hold, but that might have spooked the Italian.
Yeah, yeah, that would have been a nice tactical shot. Get super pissed, super tilted at Italy. Tell Russia you're support holding them in Trieste, spite the Italian, and then you don't, and you support yourself into Budapest from Romania. Ooh,
Yeah,
man,
but then
that's a spicy line.
then you just have to rely on the Italian taking Trieste, right? Because you can't
Which, of
ask
course they're gonna
them for
take Trieste.
support. Yeah.
Yeah, of course they're going to take Trieste.
Okay. And that Turkish fleet forever will be still alive. Although with Italian fleets in Aegean and Albania, it's looking a little more precarious than it used to because,
But not much.
yeah, I guess it's only if the Italian gets greedy here and wants a build, which clearly they don't if they were willing to support the Austrian into Trieste. And
Yeah, and like the fleet in Greece is important.
yeah, yes, it
You
is.
also can only kill it in the fall, because if you kill it in the spring, then it just retreats to Ionia and takes Naples.
Or takes
Uh,
Tunis and just sits there forever.
Or Tunis, but again, it would take Naples because you're the one who kicked them out of Greece, right? And
Yeah.
Austrian units are more important. So it would take Naples, and then you're upset.
Yep. I mean, it could do that
and
anyway. This is.
it could do that anyways, but he has no reason to, right? He thinks he's going to be safe in Greece for a while.
Yeah, I feel like. Well, okay, so Tunis would be a more safe location long term, I think.
But it's attacking the wrong person. Italy is the one who just cut you.
No, okay,
Take
so
the
I'm saying
Italian center.
if Turkey just decided that Greece wasn't safe enough, or just
No,
just
sure.
decided to make a run for it, they'd probably go for Tunis here, and I think that's actually a reasonable call, except that the way people have been able to get back in this game so far, Italy and Austria retook their homeland. And that's really hard for the Turk, but it's not impossible. They could potentially get back there. They can't if they run the other direction.
Yeah, Greece retaking Smyrna is probably the best bet at some point, but it looks unlikely.
Right, so we've kind of covered the tactics here. Shall we go ahead and move to the winter?
Yeah.
Alright, winter 1932. There is no winter 1932. That was a very warm year. We are skipping straight to spring 1933 because there were no builds or disbands. Although there is a disband here. 2 disbands, in fact, if we look at the south side of the board. Who does this work out better for? Probably
I don't
the
know what
Russian?
Austria was thinking here. Why did they try to support Bulgaria and Deccan? Smyrna has nothing to do except cut Aegean, and they've tapped Aegean every turn for the last million years. Right? Aegean should always be ordered to cut Khan, just guaranteed, and then Bulgaria should have moved to Serbia, right, as part of a complicated guess, or just hold and get support held.
Yeah.
Right.
I think this Austrian has not liked holding throughout the game so far. He seems to move a lot, especially when people are offering him support holds. But yes, absolutely. Like, even if Smyrna had decided for some reason not to attack Aegean here, the only move it would have made was Smyrna support hold Constantinople, which results in exactly the same thing here.
Yeah. Like, obviously, when you can see all of the moves that were put in, Trieste supporting Bulgaria to Serbia wouldn't have made many, like, Austria would not have gotten into Budapest, right? Austria would have only bounced with Budapest, but Austria would have gotten into Serbia, still disbanded that unit. And I think Austria would have been much happier with that position, because Serbia's off the board, we're still in Galicia, so Galicia can cut Romania, and then we're going to take Budapest, right?
Yeah.
So we still get Budapest, and we're also guaranteed we're getting plus Serbia as well. But that's not something that I can like. That's again, there's a bunch of complicated guesswork here in the nonsense. So like, I'm not particularly frustrated not going for Serbia here, right? Whether or not what moves you would have made, it's just going for Khan is just not correct. That can't be the right move.
Yeah. That feels like maybe last minute desperation. Maybe the Italian offered the support or something, and then the Austrian wasn't there in time to correct them, or maybe the Austrian offered to move and the Italian wasn't there in time to correct them.
If Italy isn't cutting Khan, then it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
You're still losing Bulgaria. It's irrelevant. So you need to tell Italy, no, Italy, cut Khan. Do it. Right? Maybe that's something that was supposed to happen, but then... Although I think last turn, Bulgaria tried theoretically to support Aegean to Khan, right? And so I get the feeling this was like, I supported you in last turn, this turn you'll support me type deal, but...
Yeah, it's not worth going for those deals when it's going to lose you the unit. So, outside of this...
But they still did get into Budapest, right? They still popped Budapest, and so they're still neutral, and Serbia is... no. Never mind.
Yeah, outside of this, it seems like everything was like pretty much correct. The Russian attempting to double support Budapest to Galicia just to counter any kind of attack here, or to potentially dislodge Galicia if they went in from the other direction.
Yeah, I think trying to save Budapest, trying to avoid the disband here was the attempt.
Yep, but the German cut on Warsaw ruined that, and actually the German could have just taken Warsaw if they'd wanted to. They go to Livonia instead, which is actually, I think, a fine move given they're in Bothnia as well. That provides some pressure against the Russian fleets in the north, which is more than the unit was doing before, but also leaves Berlin completely defenseless.
Kiel.
Yeah, Kiel is there. They could burn. The problem is you've got, 3 Russian fleets around Denmark here. You kind of... I suppose you just give up Denmark and then go Denmark back to Kiel and Kiel to Berlin or something. But
yeah, something like that.
That's the question. What is Germany doing moving Holland to Heligoland and then self-bouncing Holland?
Helgoland Bike can now support Denmark is the idea.
Yeah, but then you've got...
Yeah.
You've got issues in the lowlands now instead. Although the German still has that second army, the one in Picardy. It attempted to get convoyed over by France here and didn't work because the Russian countered it. They already saw what the German was trying to do the previous phase. But I think it might just be better for the German to let France go for London instead and move Picardy back to defend the lowlands. Because it frees up a unit in Heligoland or Kiel.
Yeah, this is interesting north still. Like Sweden, Baltic, and Skagerrak are kind of working against Kiel, Denmark, and Bothnia. It's just the advantage is always with the Russian here, because Baltic Sea and Skagerrak are so good.
Yeah, I feel like the only blunder in the north was... The only absolute blunder in the north was Norway to St. Petersburg. What was that for?
Well, stopping Bothnia to St. Pete.
Okay, yeah, obviously. So this is coast confusing me, because I look at that north coast and think, hang on, there was nothing that was blocking, what? But no, obviously Bothnia can go to St. Petersburg, and there was nothing the Russian could have done to boot him back out again if he'd done that. The move to Livonia just makes this more likely he's going to get kicked out of St. Petersburg now, though.
Maybe. With the move to Helgoland Bight, it's much more likely. Because now if Germany has Helgoland Bight and Kiel, support hold Denmark, Silesia cover Berlin, Bothnia either supports Livonia to St. Pete or gets supported into St. Pete by Livonia, that's plausible. If there wasn't the army in Livonia or the fleet in Helgoland Bight, I would expect to see Bothnia just support Denmark to Sweden again. But as is, who knows? Do you think Livonia is just going to walk into Moscow?
That's also possible, especially since Sevastopol is gone now. Of course, the German might not even want to dislodge the Russian unit from St. Petersburg because it's so useless when it's in St. Petersburg. It's just sitting on the north coast doing nothing.
I agree. That's why I would be really tempted to just walk into Moscow.
Yeah, or they could force Warsaw, which is...
Yeah, I mean, Ukraine can support whole Warsaw, right? That's the guess.
Yeah.
Is Ukraine supporting Warsaw or is defending Moscow?
It's a guess between the two.
And I bet it's supporting Warsaw.
Well, is there much more? Oh, okay. One more move I want to talk about before we move ahead and see whether that's correct. In fact, two moves, I suppose. Mid-Atlantic to North Atlantic seems fine. It seems like it is actually heading to Norwegian, finally. Or to Clyde to take Edinburgh for sure, right? Or to positions to take Edinburgh. The one I wanted to talk about, though, Lyon does go to the Tyrrhenian Sea.
Yeah.
As Italy/Austria, what would you be saying to the French player here when you see this?
Don't you dare.
It's like, what leverage do you have, though? You can say, okay, yeah, we'll throw to Russia, but do you really want to do that over one center being taken behind you?
Dude, I would throw over someone saying a bad thing to me in chat. Someone takes one of my centers when I'm the only reason we're still in this game. You can, yes, I will throw.
Okay, but bear in mind that at this point, every other game in the World Cup has probably concluded, definitely concluded. I know Goldfinger mentioned that in the last one. So by throwing here, you're not only throwing against the person who's annoyed you, you're throwing your entire team's hopes and dreams away.
Yeah, they should have done that before they put me on their team.
I suppose
they should have thought about that.
I suppose this is why they did not put you on their team. Except this.
Also, because they're on the site then, right?
Yep.
Also, none of them are based in California, right? None of these teams are Californian teams.
I think there was a team California, but I don't remember which one it was. It might have been Italy. But yes.
Hey, alright.
Okay, so you know which one to root for now, assuming I haven't just fed fake news to you.
Yeah, whatever. But, look, I mean, honestly, the way to tell France is, look, if you take Tunis, let's say I'm Austria, I might not even try to throw, but I might just be screwed here, right? Because I really, really need another unit to get built. And without Tunis, if I can't build this turn, I'm never going to be able to build again. And frankly, you need me to build. Because you need me to stop Russia. And I'm going to do everything I can to stop Russia. But without that unit, we might not get there anyways. It's not that I want to throw. It's that I can't do it without that unit.
See,
and Italy can make the same claim.
I don't know that I buy that off of Austria, though, because they've got 3 units in Vienna, Trieste, Budapest now. That forms a pretty decent line, right? By itself, the Italian army is now going over Tyrolia and then across, presumably into Bohemia, and then to help forge the line there. And you've got the 2 German units attacking Russia as well. With the Austrian unit being disbanded in Bulgaria, so he doesn't actually have a choice of disbanding like a throwing unit or whatever, I think this is the ideal time to take Tunis. And there's a decent chance he wouldn't build anyway because he needs to cover these centres. I suppose he can get out of Vienna, that's like the one.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't think as France you need him to build.
Well, that's fair. I mean, you didn't say what if I think France should take it or not.
Oh yeah, you said what pitch do you make?
You were saying what pitch do I make and how do I do it, right? Yeah, do I think France should take Tunis? Yeah. Of course. Absolutely take Tunis. But how do I convince French to not take Tunis? See, you gotta make them think you buy it. If you're not buying what you're selling, man, then you can't convince anyone.
Yep.
But no, I think France should walk into Tunis here. I think this is going to be really effective.
Okay, well, shall we go ahead and see if they do?
No. God damn it.
Nope. Do I only think... Well, I guess the Austrian made your pitch successfully, or the Italian did. Well, probably both, right?
Probably both of them.
Interestingly,
Or a pitch similar.
Austria fails to vacate Vienna, so no build, regardless. France really should have taken Tunis.
I mean, hey, it's whatever, man. France doesn't need that build. What, is it going to be another fleet in Marseille? Are you kidding me? What a useless unit. But, yeah, so, interesting stuff on the south, right? Nothing happened?
Nothing, yeah. Essentially nothing at all. Romania did manage to bounce Galicia here. There was the potential for Austria taking Serbia. That was a guess that he could have made. And you would have lost the guess over Moscow and Warsaw.
What? I wouldn't have gone to Moscow. I would have taken Warsaw. What are you talking about?
But Russia does get a retreat to pressure out of it, which doesn't seem all that great. Wouldn't you want to disband and rebuild? I suppose you're losing centers, so you can't rebuild. So I guess Prussia is fine as the only place you can retreat. But
I think you want to take St. Pete off the board, right?
Yeah, it feels a bit squeezed out there. The Russian unit, the army in Prussia, because it can't really go anywhere except back to Livonia, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it can try to get back into Warsaw or something, but that's, of course, not going to happen.
Yeah. I suppose it could also try and push into Berlin with Baltic assistance, but that's all guessing games. And ideally you want these armies to protect your core, because they're all you have to protect your core.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting that Germany took Warsaw from Livonia instead of from Silesia. I thought if you were making that guess, you'd go the other way.
Probably expecting a cut from Baltic, maybe. But yes. And what else happens here? France manages to pushes the German into North Sea here, and allows the Russians to come back into London. Ends up being pretty damn good for them, right? They're going to be able to force that fleet now.
I don't know about forcing the fleet, but they're able to guarantee take London. Right. But like there's a fleet in Norway and a fleet in Denmark, right?
So they can evacuate.
There's like a lot of actually forcing the fleet. It's difficult to support it back out into the North Sea, but like London is a guaranteed capture.
And in the meantime, Sweden goes back to the German, Denmark goes back to the Russian. And we end up in this horrendous, muddled up situation.
Yeah, but the difference is that Russia lost a unit in this turn to Germany.
Yes.
Right? Like, that's the only center that changed hand. It was Warsaw. Or no, Budapest also did.
Yeah, so Russia actually loses two, except one of them was already blown. Yeah, so...
Yeah, but this means that Germany gets to build another fleet in Kiel. And, like, that fleet is going to completely pop open this merry-go-round game.
Yep.
Along with the French fleet arriving in Norwegian, like, I think we're about to see Russia lose all of Scandinavia and England.
Everything all the way back to St. Petersburg, potentially.
And then St. Petersburg.
Like, even Moscow, potentially. Like, this is a really bad situation for the Russian, because I think I talked about this plenty in my Media Wars game, which Ezio probably hasn't watched, but some of you might have.
That was the 10-hour one, right?
Yes, that was the one. Yeah, I think I told you not to watch for that reason.
I've started watching some of it, right? I'm sure that I've watched parts of that episode. I've also probably fallen asleep. I've given that episode a lot of view time, right?
But yes, so I got into this kind of position as the Russian, and the Austrian was continuously saying that I was a threatening power as a result of it, without realizing how quickly I could lose it all. And this is basically what happens here. This is something the Russian could lose in a matter of years. Just be knocked out of everything up here.
Yeah, everything in the north is... Yes. It's vulnerable, going to explode.
Having 5 fleets helps, but not enough. 6 fleets, even. Right?
Yeah, one of them being in St. Pete is not particularly nice, but there's so many units around, right? There's 3 French fleets contesting for England, and there's 3 German fleets already in good position, and then Bothnia exists, which is annoying for you still, like, yeah.
Yeah, and a fleet build coming up, probably.
Probably a fleet build. Would you build an army here, Meme? Are you so in love with armies that you'd build Army Munich?
No, I probably don't.
Okay, thank God.
Like,
You wouldn't build Army Kiel either. You wouldn't say, "Oh, the army can take Denmark." We don't need a fleet.
I mean, 5 fleet, 3 army. No, it's 4 army, right? Germany feels wrong still, but I think it's reasonable in this situation with so many Russian fleets. And
Also, do you really want Army Denmark? Isn't that the worst unit in the game?
well, yes, but if you build an army, it's Army Munich, right? Just to.
Oh, so you're just not even fighting back for Denmark? Okay.
I mean,
Man.
you move Holland back to Kiel.
And then so you still get Army Denmark. Great.
I'm sure you can figure out a way to put fleet into Denmark in some form or another. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
Pro tip: never put an army into Denmark, guys. it doesn't go well. Basically, ever. I've made this mistake the hard way many times. Like the only time is if you're convoying it there as England, right? In like 1902.
Yep.
But,
if you have any agreement that allows it to walk through into like Finland, then you're fine. But yes, otherwise it's pretty horrible. You always want a fleet there. So
all right, let's go see the build.
Let's see the build. Is it just one build? It's 2 builds, right?
You
got the build and disband. No, it's not a disband.
I'm gonna cry.
That is an army.
Why is it not a disband? Why isn't there a disband? Were there 2 things that got popped?
Were there 2 things that got popped? Let's go back here. So
we lost Budapest, right?
We did lose Budapest as the Russian. They took Bulgaria and lost Budapest, and then lost Warsaw.
Lost Sweden, gained Denmark.
Yeah, so they only went -1 total, which was Warsaw.
Yeah.
And they got the Budapest popped.
So and Budapest already got popped?
Yep.
I'm an idiot.
Don't worry, I had the same thing.
But yeah, we built Army Kiel.
Yeah.
As I said before, I want to cry.
What is the point of Army Kiel?
To support hold Berlin? We're just saying, yeah. We're just going to be supporting Berlin. Army Kiel can do that. Fleet Kiel can do that. They're equivalent.
Yeah, see, this is why if you're building an army, it needs to be in Munich so that you can at least go Berlin back to Kiel and cover Berlin with the army. So because this way around doesn't make any sense. You want your army on the eastern front and your fleet on the western front. Or you want
just want a fleet. You don't want an army. Fleets are good. Armies are bad.
Yeah, I think Germany might be looking more long term, right?
What do you mean long term? You've got Denmark and Norway to capture.
Okay.
And St. Pete. That's 3 armies to build.
Right, so...
Look in the short term. Can I get centers and put units where I want them? Yes, I can. Let's do it. Right.
What do you think is the likelihood that Italy goes to Munich if you build a fleet?
0.
Are you sure? Because at this point, like, Russia is solidly knocked back. There is chance that Italy just takes the build, I think.
Yeah, but if Italy goes after Munich, then I feel like France is going to walk into Naples.
That's possible.
Right.
But, like,
if Italy
not
shows
on the same
Italy
turn.
Doesn't care about it. I mean, my point is, Italy is currently stuck into this press situation saying the stopping Russia is the only important thing on this board. Because if anyone doesn't think that stopping Russia is the only important thing on the board, then Austria moves into Venice and Rome.
Yep.
And then you're just dead, right?
Yep.
So you need the board position, the state of the board to stay everyone focused against purely Russia. So maybe in the fall you can sneak into Munich, build Venice, and if Germany is already going plus what is already building, then you'll be okay. Because you say, we don't need that unit, it's fine. My unit's more important than his, or whatever. But like, I think it's really tough to make that pitch. And if I'm Germany in this spring right now, I'm saying I'm supporting you into Galicia.
Yeah.
Get out of Bohemia.
That's, I think that makes sense. Oh man, I just thought... What happens if the Italians... So the Italian supports Ionian to Eastern Mediterranean here, right? It says, France, get back into your favorite place in Syria. I'll
Yeah,
backfill
yeah,
Ionian
yeah,
and
yeah.
then maybe just take Tunis instead of doing anything with regard to Munich.
Yeah, if you make those moves in public press, then I feel like Bulgaria and Greece.
Yeah. Okay.
But you don't say you're going to Ionian in public press, right?
Yeah.
That's the key.
All right. Well, so we see
Let's see
this
it.
army. Let's see what Germany decides to do with it. Spring 1934, and we have a French NMR. But they were going to Eastern Mediterranean, or at least they were offered the chance to go to Eastern Mediterranean.
They were indeed offered the support into Eastern Med,
Po-
and Italy does get into Galicia with support,
yep.
so
Um,
that's safe.
you called that correctly. The German army just supports Sweden down, which doesn't actually do anything, but they do manage to
I mean, it
knock the
stops.
Russian out of Baltic, which is
Yeah, yeah,
important.
yeah. So Kiel supporting Sweden to Denmark was the important guess here, right?
Yep.
Otherwise, they would have lost Sweden, but they didn't. So that's great.
Yeah. And the poor German on the other front, it tries to take the convoy into London again. It cuts the unit in Yorkshire to make sure it works, and of course the French NMRs. So they'll just lose North Sea and don't gain anything at all. Oof.
Yeah, and then they retreat into Helgoland Bight rather than Skagerrak.
Yeah, that's just... Maybe that's purely to stop the Russian retreating there once you knock him out of Denmark, right? I think it's just to make sure he hasn't got all these annoying units on your home supply centers. That's the same reason getting them out
Yeah,
of Baltic is quite important here.
yep, Helgoland Bight's a nice place, and if you're already in Baltic Sea and Bothnia, then it's fine. Skagerrak's less important.
Yeah. But Skagerrak would be very nice from a, pushing on Norway kind of perspective, maybe support holding Sweden. But
Yep.
you kind of already have Norwegian for that purpose, so...
Yeah, I mean, if you expect Norwegian to make moves, then yeah, you're probably going to take Norway anyways.
Yep.
Just like I said, man, I'm not relying on this French player to do anything. Like, yeah.
Yep. And
I
actually...
think all in all, this was a really good turn for Germany, though. Like, yes, it should have been much better because Germany presumably had this deal with France to get convoyed into London, so Germany should have been like gaining. But getting into the Baltic Sea, forcing Baltic Sea to retreat into Livonia, and keeping Warsaw is just really, really nice for the German position.
Yep. And I mean, they're set up now for the fall. I think they're guaranteed Denmark, right?
If they want it, yeah.
It's
There's a bunch of awkwardness because like Prussia can guess for Berlin, and North Sea could guess for Belgium or Holland.
yeah,
And so trying to take Germany is by no means guaranteed +1, but Germany is definitely guaranteed to take a center.
yeah.
Plus, like all these guesses for Sweden, right? So yeah, it's a thing. It's a position that exists, but I think Germany's relatively happy with things.
Yeah. I think, like, any position like this, I'll automatically look at and say, okay, there's probably guesses. It's always gonna be guesses, right? Anything
Yeah,
where the
and
units are
so
this muddled up.
yes.
I
I think Austria is also very happy with how things went.
mean, you gotta be happy as the Austrian with the only Italian army going to Galicia, and you just having a straight run for Venice and Rome whenever you wanted. You just wait until you push
Can't do it
the.
right now.
Yeah, don't do it right now, but it's always an option, and I don't see where the Italian build is coming from. Even if you. I suppose maybe it's
So
from Romania if you push them down into it here?
yeah, so if I am Austria here, right? We tell Italy that we want Galicia to cut Romania, and then we support ourselves into Serbia from Budapest, while Vienna moves to Budapest to bounce it, right?
Yep.
And so we're guaranteed Serbia. Great. If I'm Russia, I know that Romania doesn't do anything here, so there's really no point for it to do anything. There's no reason for it to tap Budapest or anything, right? There's no reason for it to do anything, so it just holds. And if I'm Italy, I know both of those things, and I tap Vienna.
Brilliant. That would be great if you'd need to get the build as Italy here, because like if Austria does this, which I think is pretty much guaranteed, if you're Austria, you never support the Italian unit into Romania, right? You always put yourself into Serbia and get the build.
Yes.
Then as Italy, you've got no centers. You've got no builds. You have to get a build from somewhere. In order to protect yourself against this Austrian threat, because otherwise, the moment Russia's not an issue, he is going to dash into Venice and Rome, and then you're just dead.
And that is literally happening next turn.
Yeah.
Because once Austria is in Serbia, then between Vienna, Budapest, and Serbia to contest the 3 Russian units in Bulgaria, then Romania, Ukraine, you're fine. And then Trieste can get into Venice, and you'll be golden. Austria will have no issues.
Yep. This is...
Wait, hold up. I just realized Austria doesn't even need to take Serbia this turn. Austria's still playing down 1. Maybe you do then support Italy into Romania, and you just need to vacate Vienna.
Maybe. I don't think as Austria you actually want Italy to build.
Definitely.
You want to leave this Venice-Rome corridor completely open to you. So I think you take Serbia anyway. You say, okay, I'm gonna do like one of these 2 things, and it'll be a 50-50, but then obviously you go for the one that benefits yourself. And then Italy can't hold that against you because you know...
But you still have to vacate Vienna then to get 2 builds.
Yes, so...
Right, that's the key. So Italy should always tap Vienna here.
Yes. But, this is also why I think Italy should have gone to Ionian, but as it turns out, it wouldn't have mattered because the French unit didn't move. Yeah, so Italy could have gotten that build in Tunis if they had gone to Ionian here. That would have been important.
Yeah.
If they'd have gone to... I think there's also the potential that they just take Greece here for their build, because that also solves the plugging the hole in Venice up issue.
Sure. Yeah, it does. And Russia might not tap a G in this turn.
Yep.
So,
with this Ankh thing, what's the point of this? It's I guess it's Russia just saying, okay, I'm backing off completely from this front.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I think the fleet. I think it's just Russia making moves. Probably theoretically, he's gonna get Ankara back to Armenia or something. I don't know, man. Ankara is going to cover Smyrna this turn, obviously. It's just now he has the fleet in Khan instead of a fleet in Smyrna, and I have no idea why he would care.
Come back into Black Sea, I suppose. That's the main advantage. But I feel like in combination with stuff like Romania up to Ukraine, Bulgaria to Romania, he's doing a whole act of, I'm going to back off from the south. I'm not the big threat anymore. Austria, Italy go at each other. And that might work.
It's just, to me, you should be back and do that in the north. Right, pulled out of Edinburgh, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, right? Who cares about all those territories? Because those ones you can't realistically hold ever. But these southern territories you can, right? There are 6 southern territories in Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, Sevastopol. If your fleet gets into the Black Sea, you're just locked in the south, and they're not really going to be able to take those ever. It's going to take so long, and there's going to be enough chaos. You can probably worm your way back in. Right. Don't concede the super defensive Turkish land when it looks like that's what he's doing.
Yeah. Right. Well, is there a lot more to talk about here? I don't think there really is. There is also the possibility that Italy goes for a build in Bulgaria. Something we didn't talk about, but that can be blocked by the Russian. In fact, I think it's likely to be blocked by the Russians specifically because that Romania is getting tapped here. Sorry, that Serbia is probably getting dislodged here. You just support it back with Con, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Smyrna is supporting Serbia to Con, almost certainly.
Okay.
Con is supporting Serbia to Bulgaria.
Yeah, that's the one. Let's go ahead to the fall then, see how things turned out. Okay, fall 1934. Also, I realize we've been completely forgetting to do power rankings on this one. Let's do them in the winter.
Power rankings. We're going to say whose fault is it, rankings.
Oh, yeah. Well, it still says power rankings right now. I'll get that changed for next episode, but for now we're still doing power rankings. But yes, let's do that in the winter.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, and it turns out we called everything pretty much exactly correctly in the south, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would not have had Romania go to Budapest, but to leave open the option of Galicia to Vienna, but obviously that didn't happen, so
Yeah.
it's fine.
And Italy not actually forcing Greece here might be their demise. If anything happens with, like, they don't have a build, and that's
They
gonna
don't have a
hurt.
build, and Austria has disbanded Serbia. It's not even in Bulgaria. It is off the board. There's going to be another Austrian army in Budapest.
Yep.
So if I'm Austria, how can you convince me I shouldn't go Trieste to Venice, Venice to Rome?
Oh god, I don't think I can in this position. I have to, like... What can you even offer to throw? You can't, right? Especially not now that you've disbanded the Russian army. I almost think it would have been better if you hadn't tried to support anything into Bulgaria. Italy really needed to take Greece here, or to go for Vienna, but obviously, as we know now, that wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, but I mean, you could have done both, honestly.
As Italy, you have to demand maybe that Austria waves. But even then, Austria can just
build
walk
in
in.
Budapest?
Yeah, but like, what other assurance can you possibly give? You can't outright say.
Dude, I want more units. Like, Budapest is important. There's a Russian in Romania. Like, no, we're taking Romania this turn.
Yeah, but
Right?
as Italy, what
Budapest.
else can you do? You can't outright threaten anything because by the time you're in,
just says no. I'm not gonna wave.
yes, by the time you're in position to, well, by the time you know whether you have to enact that threat or not, you're dead. You've lost Venice and Rome, and there's nothing you can do. So yeah, I think my selling point would have been to not do this in the first place and to just grab Greece, or to go to.
Do we think that Greece is in a better position than Italy?
Oh boy.
Do we think that Turkey is higher on the power rankings than Italy?
No. And the only reason for that is that Italy will murder Turkey to stay alive. So Turkey will die 1 year before Italy does, I think, if this happens. Right? Because there's no way that Turkey survives that if Italy is desperate for centers.
Yeah. Unless... Oh yeah, Russia can't even support it. Because Bulgaria is popped?
Yep. Austria could if they just wanted to annoy the Italians some more.
If I'm trying to kill Italy, you can bet absolutely that I'm going to support hold.
Yeah, because he tries to get Galicia off the board. Okay, maybe Turkey does survive longer than Italy then in that case.
I would actually, if I was Austria specifically, I would cut Albania from Serbia. Because honestly, I'm okay with Greece retreating to Ionian.
Oh, right.
I'd tell the Turk, hey, go to Naples.
Okay,
right?
wait, the Italian just goes to Tunis here, doesn't take Greece. I'm dumb. Right? There's nothing that can block them from Ionian, and they can take a centre off of the person who's about to grab all of theirs. It should be noted that we are kind of assuming that Austria will just go for this. There is a chance that he's going to be a nice alliance player and not go for these open centres, but it just seems so tempting. There's no way you don't, right?
It's like so look, there's a line like what's the upside of keeping Italy on the board right here?
There isn't one apart from having someone who likes you, but someone who likes you is probably worse than just having centers.
Yours, yeah. Right? Currently those are 3 Italian units that could very easily be like 1 hostile unit and 2 Austrian units. And like that just seems fine.
Yep. Well, shall we go through to winter and then do power rankings?
Well, let's look at the north. Right?
Oh, yeah, we haven't even looked at the north. That's true.
So, France does an NMR. Congratulations.
Gets a build.
He does take London. Right? Very nicely done. Actually was guaranteed to get a build with these moves.
Yep.
Because they needed North Sea and Yorkshire to cover both Edinburgh and London, but they needed to work it out. So, great. London was captured. probably building fleet at Marseille, but I think army is reasonable. It's a lot harder to make the case for the army because you can't convoy it anywhere, right? It really is just super stranded.
Yeah.
But like Piedmont to Tyrolia, man, that's a place for an army.
Yep. I mean, you could
Um,
even say it's there to protect the Italian against this obvious Austrian step.
yeah, right. And you just say, hey, I'll go into Ionian to protect you. I'm going to take Tunis or whatever. Yeah, I mean, army Marseille and Tyrolia really does help, actually. That's a pretty big deal. Okay, but also we've got Denmark being taken effectively and then retreating to Skagerrak. Does Russia try to support Denmark to Sweden?
Yeah, it
Because I
looks
think
like they
that's what happened.
did.
And then Livonia cut Bothnia instead of Baltic
Yeah.
because Livonia thought that Bothnia was support holding Sweden.
I wonder if they thought the Baltic would be covering Berlin and Silesia would be support holding Warsaw, right? But then Warsaw has 3 armies on it, so that's very unlikely to happen. I don't know if viewers can tell, but I am a little more tired than I was last time we did this, so Ezio is the main guy who's being able to spot things on this episode.
Yeah, I mean, these tactics are a little off. Like, what movesets does this Russian order actually beat? Right? It beats Baltic support Kiel to Denmark, I suppose. Right? It beats that. But then, and Bothnia support holds Sweden. But, like, it doesn't beat Baltic Sea support holds Sweden, while Sweden supports Kiel to Denmark. Or Skagerrak. No, there's nothing in Skagerrak, right? Or right? I don't know. Or Helgoland to Denmark, for that matter. It doesn't beat. I don't know. I wouldn't have ordered that particular thing tactically. I think Livonia to Baltic Sea, it just feels way more natural to me because Baltic Sea can support any attack into Denmark,
Yeah.
whereas Bothnia can only support hold Sweden.
Yep. And obviously we'll move into Sweden as we saw it here, if Sweden is moving, which means your tap doesn't do anything except move you out to Bothnia. I mean, being in Bothnia is probably better than Fleet Livonia, but it's still... it's not really worth
I'd rather
it
have
over
cut
having...
Baltic Sea.
Yes.
Or covered St. Pete, frankly, because Bothnia could have gone to St. Pete still, like, which we know it didn't happen. But that's like, I don't know. I really don't like Livonia to Bothnia. But whatever. I mean, he took Warsaw for certain, and he made just reasonable defensive moves. The guess of Denmark to Sweden is, of course, a reasonable guess. But whatever, it's fine. So in the north, Russia loses London, but regains Warsaw. But loses Denmark.
Yeah, so they're down 1 net there, and they're down Serbia in the south. Which, that one gets force disbanded, so they're only losing 1 unit. But that might actually be a bad thing, because here you just want to start disbanding your fleets. I think.
Yeah, you want your fleets off the board in the north, and you want to just start curling up into a ball in the south, I would say, right? Moscow, Ukraine, Moscow, Warsaw, and everything to the south, right? Those are what you're going to hold now, and you're just going to let them figure it out.
Yeah.
But, oh well.
Well, sure.
Let's do some builds and power rankings, right?
Yep, so here we go to builds. Army Marseille. France has gone with the bolder move here, I think, and it's probably the better move, given that can take back their centres as well, especially now that Russia is less of a threat. And of course the Austrian Army Budapest, that's obvious. Russian taking off Fleet Yorkshire, I think, is also obvious. It feels like the worst unit Russia has right now.
Yeah, need to get rid of your fleets. You're not really contesting England anymore, so just get rid of it.
Yeah, so power rankings here are really interesting because I feel like Russia basically doesn't own Edinburgh, Norway, or St. Petersburg, so in that sense I would put Germany ahead of them, but I think that Germany doesn't own Brest or Paris at this point. And at the same time we have an Austria that's potentially about to explode in growth. So I don't think it's as obvious as a supply center order for once.
Yeah, and France has more growth potential. right?
Yep. Is
So Austria and France are both at 5, but if France can get Brest, that's easy 6. Edinburgh is potentially plausible for number 7.
Yeah, and Paris is definitely not guaranteed in any sense, but they could walk into it here.
Yeah, if Germany doesn't go to Picardy or Burgundy, then yes, Marseille can walk into Paris.
Yep. So who would you put in first on this board? It's a really difficult choice. I'd be tempted to make it France. Because of the natural France bonus of, I am the best
Being
power on this
bullshit.
board, plus them having the British Isles, basically. They're about to have all of their home centres back, probably, and the Russian and the German are kind of counterbalancing them on the other side of the board. In
So I agree with a lot of what you said, but I wouldn't say he almost has his immediate build potential is low. So even if he goes and he gains Tunis and Brest this turn, he's still only building 1, right? Because he only has Marseille.
Yep.
And as a result, he can't. It's going to take him, right? Even if he builds 1 this turn, right, and he retakes Brest and Tunis, and then he takes Paris and Edinburgh, right? Even if all of that happens, which I think are going to be the best next 2 years for him, you could reasonably expect, he's still only at 9, right?
Yeah.
And he has just built those 9 units. Whereas, and for Austria only has 4 units on the board. So even if Austria makes this blitz that we're talking about, where he takes Venice, Rome, and Naples in the next 2 years, then he builds 3, and he's at 7, and then he gets another one, so he's at 8 2 years from now. So
Yeah.
fine. Or you have Germany, who already has 9 units on the board, or Russia, who has 11.
Yeah. See, Okay, so would you put Germany first? I assume Russia is no longer first, based on his northern position.
That's the thing, right? If France attacks Germany right now, I feel like France would do quite well in that war, right? But if France attacks Germany, then I think Russia is first.
Yes.
If France doesn't attack Germany, I think Germany's first. If France slowly eats Germany, I think France is first. If Austria blitzes Italy and France and Germany keep attacking Russia, then Austria's first. If Italy and Turkey are both dead, right? Both of them are last by a lot, right?
Yeah.
Everyone else, there are worlds where I think their position works well, and again, I think I think your point alluding to, France has natural, safe growth, and nobody in position to attack him, right?
Yep.
The closest hostile unit is Belgium, and there's an army in Belgium, right? And that just makes his position nice. Maybe it was just France. Maybe just nobody can ever attack France in a million years, right? It would take Germany to concede a bunch of territory to Russia to do it, but Russia still got 5 fleets in the north.
I feel like I would put France first. It feels so weird with 5 supply centers and 11 cents of power on the other side of the board.
Missing 2 of their home supply centers?
Yeah, they are. It's such a strong position long term.
Because he's France. You're just saying we've analyzed the board and determined that France is in fact a good power. France is first. That's what's happened here, but I don't disagree.
Yeah.
Right? Italy is not in position to do anything to France from the south, and in the north, France has English Channel and London and the most fleets on the North Sea, right? Or the most fleets that can expect to attack the North Sea. Yeah, maybe it's just France.
I think France is also expected to have complete naval dominance in the south very soon here, because if Austria launches the stab, which they almost certainly will, the Italian fleets come off.
In the Eastern Med is the dominant naval power.
But there'll probably be 1 more French fleet coming south, and that's enough. You can hold Tunis forever with that, which is your 18th, and you can potentially send more to push up afterwards. Austria's not going to have enough naval power to oppose it. They can get 1 fleet down, but that's not enough.
Yeah, it'll take a bit. I think France needs to build another army with the next build, especially if they're making plays for Paris,
Yeah.
right? So I don't think you can build a fleet immediately in Marseille. And again, France only has 5 units on the board or whatever. So Austria building 2 fleets does get him to naval control in the south, or at
Okay.
least naval parity. But the rest of the position is sound, and I think long term France, anyone who has played France versus Austria knows that France has a very good claim to Tunis by nature of existence.
Yep.
Right. Brest and Marseille are both 3 moves from Tunis, and it's really difficult for Austria to hold Tunis. So
Yep.
if Tunis is your 18th, I think France is fine.
Yeah, so I'm gonna make the call here and put France at the top of the rankings.
Sure.
Which
I think Russia has to be second.
yeah, especially if we're assuming that France makes this grab for growth, right? It's gonna hurt Germany and
putting
benefit.
France here specifically because, like you said, we expect France to make a play for Brest/Paris.
Yes.
And that just is, those are German centers. So
Then I feel like it has to be Germany over Austria, despite the Austrian growth potential. Well, the like Austrian easy stab of Italy, just because Germany has a stronger position right now.
yeah, and claim to Scandinavia still.
Yep.
Right. Like Germany is going to be tough to fight, and like if Germany commits Belgium to the west to hold on to Paris for a while, it really does slow down France a lot.
Yep. This is true. And the last two, I think I've kept Italy above Turkey just for the fact that, I mean, Italy could force their way into Ionia and then sit in Tunis, which is a safer position than Greece.
Greece. Yep.
And there's always a chance that Austria doesn't stab. It's a slight chance, but there is a chance.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna say I'm really sad for Turkey, who has not NMR'd this entire game and is about to die. Whereas France, we're saying, is in first place and is NMR'd like 30%, like not 30, like it's, too many NMRs. It's very frustrating.
Yes.
But he's France, so he's fine.
Okay, well, let's go ahead.
The Austrians,
Let's go ahead and see what happens in spring 1935.
Well, that's not an Austrian stab.
No stab on Italy. And the Italian unit gets force disbanded, except it could have retreated to Vienna. But it doesn't.
Yeah. Okay.
And Turkey is getting one step closer to its home supply centers.
Dude, I mean, Constantinople is guaranteed for the Turk if they want it.
Man.
And France and Italy cooperate, of course.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Okay.
Why didn't Austria kill him?
Yeah.
Austria! Vienna to Trieste! Trieste to Venice!
Okay.
Oops.
So the Austrian moves are anti-German, yeah?
Like, Bohemia and Tyrol, it looks anti-German for sure.
Why do you want that?
What happened in the diplomacy? What happened in the press, man?
This is the interesting question, because, like, I could understand this if France was a non-factor and Germany is getting the upper hand up here. You know, you need to swing around and start taking him down, but France is about to cripple Germany. They've just gone to Gascony. They can get Brest and Paris back easily. They can take
I mean, you don't know
Edinburgh
that France was doing that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
you assume they are, right?
Look, I wouldn't go after France. I wouldn't go after Germany here as Austria, right? We've discussed this a lot. I would have gone after Venice and then backfilled Trieste and looked to take Rome and Venice. That was my plan.
Yep.
But like, I guess Austria and Italy are going to work together, right? And like, Italy's going to build more fleets now, and Austria's going to build their armies. So, yeah, I think they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Right. And like, I'm okay working with a pure naval power Italian, right? If they've only got fleets literally on the entire board, then it's much easier to work with them.
It just feels worse than having those supply centers for yourself when it's this easy to take them.
Yeah, I mean, so counterpoint, we can use Italy to break Russia out of Turkey's home supply centers right now,
Yes.
right? That is a thing that Italy does that we, by stabbing Italy, would not let happen. We would stop that. And
Yes.
I don't know if that's good.
You can only do that by putting the Turk back into those centers. Do you really want to resurrect the Turk at
Well,
this point?
Romania left, right?
Yes, it did.
So Bulgaria can support Aegean into Khan.
Yes, it can. This is true. Do you? And I suppose you just force the Turk to accept that because he can't
The
change that
Turk has no
decision.
bargaining
Yep.
power. And we've just given Turkey 2 centers, right?
Yeah.
Turkey's now
Well,
harder to eliminate.
I assume someone is going to walk into Greece. Yeah.
What? No way. Who would do such a thing?
uh, um, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that makes sense. I think the Italian will go to Constantinople, with Turkish support here then, and Austria can't take Romania, yeah, because there's Galicia plus Ukraine. Austria even has to come back and defend Vienna again because of the Russian unit in Galicia, which makes this whole move against Germany thing even worse.
Yeah, I mean, Budapest can cover Vienna and Serbia can cover Budapest, and if you can get Russia to support you into Munich, then you'll be fine.
Yep.
And I expect Russia will be willing to support you into Munich, right? Because they don't like German.
Yeah. Um. So that's definitely a way of getting your builds, and
Yeah.
I just think this was the moment to attack Italy. Like they're about to get builds, well, for either from Constantinople or from Greece or even from Tunis,
And from Galicia disbanding, right?
and from Galicia disbanding. Yeah.
The point is, you're able to just Venice, Rome, just kill him immediately.
Yeah.
And, like, yeah, you're going to lose Tunis, so technically there will be a fleet there, but not worth it. I think you make that play, and then you hope.
Um.
But who knows, right? Russia had 7 units in the south still, right? Constantinople, Smyrna, Ukraine, Galicia, Warsaw, Silesia. Like,
6. Yeah.
you're okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, only 6.
Yeah, but yes, so maybe you do want you do think that's too strong to go for the stab, but
That's just if you can get those builds right, you're already at 5 centers. If you can build 3 this turn, you're then also at 7, and like you're all armies, so you can just push.
yep, and you're
Oh,
probably not going to get an opportunity like this again.
all right. So in the north, though,
Yes.
so yeah, we saw Marseille de Gascony, right? The like probably going to Brest or Paris, right? One would expect.
Yep.
France also gets into the North Sea and has a guaranteed walk into Edinburgh from Norwegian or the North Sea. Like, France just has control over every important naval territory around England, and the lowlands are undefended. Like, I don't know. France's position looks really good right now.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. They can walk into Edinburgh with no opposition. They can, well, they probably won't take the lowlands, but they can walk into Paris and Brest, get like +3, but with only 1 build because of the whole home center situation. But it's not actually that bad because you can just like hole up in your home, go bounce the German out of Burgundy potentially, or just sort of sit around and wait for your home centers to be open and then build.
Yeah. I feel like taking Paris here is the play I would do if I was France, with intent to build an army in Marseille, and then either self-balance in Gascony, while Edinburgh takes Brest and then vacates it, or support myself into Burgundy, well, after taking Brest, and then have Brest cover Gascony to stop that retreat.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and I mean, with the Austrian going to Tyrolia Bohemia, the German might not even go for Burgundy here.
yeah,
So, yeah.
France looks really happy.
What?
Russia in the north just doesn't make any progress because Russia can't really make any progress.
Yep.
Um,
It's the problem with this mess of fleets here. They can't really hold
Wait.
anything.
I say they didn't make any
They did
progress.
get into Sweden.
Yeah.
This is a convoying Livonia out seems like a strange choice, unless you are aiming to, like, make up with the Russian, which may have been what caused this Austrian move on Munich, if they did, like, arrange convoying Livonia out.
Yeah, that's what it must be. They must have said, hey, this game was great for us when we were working together. You attacked me sometime in the last 10 years or whatever, and then our games both started falling apart. Let's get back in this, old buddy, old pal, old friend.
Yep.
And then Russia was like, sure, that sounds like a great idea. Why don't you convoy Livonia away? And then Germany said, sure. And then Russia's like, great. Thanks, buddy.
And then uses that opportunity to take Sweden. Yep.
Incidentally, I think they would have rather had Livonia get convoyed away.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, having it get out of the... Like, this is why I'm saying it must have been arranged, because even being convoyed up to Sweden, it's still so much better for Russia than if it stays in Livonia. It's adjacent to 3 of Russia's home supply centers right now, and 2 of those are barely defended.
Yeah, I mean, 2 of them are vacant at the moment. Neither one of them can actually be taken, incidentally, because Warsaw, right? Because Barents in Norway can cover St. Pete.
Yep, and Ukraine covers
cover St. Pete.
Moscow.
Yeah.
But
or Warsaw and Silesia, but who knows?
Yeah. But yes, I wonder what happens going forward here then, because this is clearly a Russian stab if that happened, because I mean, Germany was intending to convoy out.
Yeah, and it's possible that, like, there were still tensions in it, and we see Russia then realize Germany was actually serious about it, and then decides to work with Russia moving forward. Or Russia decides to work with Germany moving forward, excuse me. So we could see, like, Silesia support hold Munich or something.
Yeah.
That'd be plausible. We could also just see Germany get collapsed on and feel the pressure of being Germany.
Yep, that's possible. Like, with this in mind, it looks like that move to Skagerrak was an attempt to blow that fleet up. Just take it off the board. And, like, this does make a lot of sense, especially with our power rankings, with France being in first place, and this German thinking, you know, we need to deal with this. So, yeah, I think we've talked about that. Shall we go ahead to the fall?
Yeah, let's see if Russia and Germany make friends.
Yeah. They do not. That looks like a no.
They do something that does not much look like making friends.
Yes, Germany takes St. Petersburg. They don't attack each other on the Scandinavian front, but that doesn't really matter because neither of them could make any progress there anyway.
Yeah, and France says, I'm only going to be able to build one anyways. I don't need to take any German centers. Gascony is fine. Or just take Edinburgh and call it a day. Eastern Med didn't cut Smyrna.
Huh.
So Turkey did not get into Khan. So Austria did not get into Bull. Okay.
And then the Austrian Italian either had an arranged swap of Venice and Tunis, which seems a little weird, or both stabbed each other. Well, there's a lot to cover here.
So, if we're going into Venice, perhaps we could have walked into Venice last turn in the spring, and then moved into Rome in the fall.
That would have been so much better. Why?
Then we're in Venice and Rome, and Italy is... I mean, Italy's still on 3, which is funny.
Yep.
Dude, France not cutting Smyrna looks so good here. That looks so smart. Because you don't want this East to get tangled up, to get untangled quickly, right?
Yeah.
As France, you want them to stay chaotic. You want Russia to stay the most powerful, right? You want Austria to make gains, but man, I think that's really good. The only downside is perhaps you actually do want Turkey to get back into their home because France loves Turkey. They're best buds.
Yeah.
And it's going to take so long for Turkey to be a threat But
But at the same time, given that the Austrian army was going into Bulgaria here, I don't think that Turkey would have lived very long even if they did go into Constantinople. In fact, I think that's a worse centre for them to be in if they want to survive, right? Well, maybe not worse because they can retreat to Black Sea, but
and it's their home,
yeah.
right? Which I like retaking my home supply centers with the fleet.
Yeah, but
But
as France, you probably expect that even if you do push Turkey into Con, they're not going to come back and be a big power. They're just going to
what
be
if I
killed.
support Khan to Smyrna? I'm an Eastern Med,
Yeah,
right?
I suppose that's true.
I can keep him around. I can get him a build at some point in the future, probably. And once Turkey gets 2 builds, like, Turkey's going to be fine here.
Yeah, I mean, I still think it was smart for France not to cut Smyrna here. I think it does help.
I like it a lot. I think the strategic of slowing down the East, don't let them untangle, is really important.
Yep. And that ends up meaning that I think France gets the only gain on the board, right? In Edinburgh.
So Russia loses Khan and Bull and St. Pete.
Yep.
Germany loses
Sweden.
Sweden but gains St. Pete.
Yep. So they're even. Austria loses Tunis, gains Venice. So they're even. And Turkey goes +1.
But they were playing down 1, so they get the build.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Turkey goes +1, but can't build because it's Greece.
Yeah, and so Russia has to take a bunch of things off the board. Very cool.
I still think I would have preferred France to go into Brest or Paris. Sorry? I think France should have gone into Brest or Paris here and taken a home supply centre. There's very little reason not to.
I would have liked to take Paris, as I said.
Yes. Just so that... Because it's so slow growing if you only have one supply centre. Remember, if you need to take your supply centres back, you have to wait another year past that point to actually build anything in them. So taking them earlier is better. But yeah, France will get 1 build here, and then hopefully they'll take their homes next year instead. But yes, so is there anything else to talk about here?
I mean, builds, right?
Yep. Okay, well, let's go through... Or are you saying prospective builds first?
No, let's see them.
Okay.
No.
Winter 1935. Italy got a build?
Italy popped
Galicia.
Galicia.
Yes, Italy popped Galicia. And Austria got a build. Italy's army Rome. Yeah, that's kind of essential once Austria is in Venice.
Better if that was an Italian army in Rome.
Sorry?
If Austria had moved into Venice, then this would be an Austrian army in Rome.
Yes. I think the Austrian made the wrong choice on not going. We're
gonna harp on this for a long time, because that turn, you don't get steps better than that.
Yeah,
you really don't.
There was the issue that the Italian unit in Galicia was about to get dislodged, so Austria would have had to go in from Serbia and Trieste in order to not have something retreat into Vienna and Budapest. But honestly, he could have afforded to do that. The only unit that was adjacent to that was the Russian army in Romania, which ended up getting pulled out of Romania. I don't think that was likely to go. But even if it doesn't get
pulled out, it's just not that hard.
Yeah.
Right, you can figure it out.
Yep. But yes, now Austria is stopped on his... Well, no, he could potentially still make progress, but on his run through Italy, it's so much
slower.
Harder. Yeah.
Because Tunis gets back into Tyrrhenian Sea, and, like, Rome is going to tap Venice this turn, so you can't get into Tuscany and Venice, right? You probably want to go into Apulia, and then, like, hope that you can start making... Right, you can start making progress, but, like, Aegean can make it back into Ionian.
Yep.
Right? Russia's still in the bottle. There's just... Yeah, it's going to take forever.
Yep. Although...
But the good news for Austria, we saw that Galicia got disbanded.
Yes, which means Romania is guaranteed to be Austrian this turn. So Austria's still in a good position now. It's just not as good as it could have been.
Yep. And that's fine.
Yep.
France built an army instead of a fleet. We like it. I think France is at the time where he's got the complete control over the northern waters. He doesn't need another fleet to secure it. So Let's get some armies.
Yep, and Fleet Skagerrak comes off the board as well, which is... I think that's a sign of non-aggression towards the German, maybe? Although you would expect
or towards the French.
Bothnia to
like,
come off, maybe. Yeah, no, you wouldn't expect Bothnia.
I don't know, man. Like, if I'm Russia, I would have either disbanded 2 fleets or 2 armies.
Yeah.
Right. And I would not have disbanded 2 armies. So I would have just disbanded 2 fleets.
Yep.
I think, I would have disbanded Sweden and Skagerrak. Basically guaranteed. I would have tried to retake St. Petersburg from Norway or something, and then just, kept all my armies on the board. And like I said, everything Moscow, Warsaw, and South is all I care about.
Yeah, you hope that Germany and France go to war soon. You can hopefully get something out of that. But yes, you don't expect to hold Norway and Sweden with this.
And so here's what I'm saying, right? We've got 4 fleets in the north: Norway, Sweden, Bothnia, and Barents Sea. And we have 2 supply centers in the north: Norway and Sweden.
Yep.
So currently, we are funding our northern fleet effort with a bunch of southern centers that we have weakened the defense of. Whereas instead, we could have just kept Galicia and then kept Romania, right? At least fought for Romania, and then maybe get Moscow or something into Ukraine. Our fleets are bad, they're not defending that many centers. Our armies are good, they're defending a lot of centers. Keep our armies, disband our fleets.
Yep. That's exactly it. But no, he decides to get rid of Galicia instead. We'll see whether that pays off. It does give him more of a chance of holding the north until France and Germany go to war, but I think France and Germany would be more likely to go to war if you give up this position.
Because they have no incentive to work together anymore.
Yeah, well, shall we go to spring 36? Yeah. And...
okay.
Yep, here we go. Yeah, and France and Germany continue working together right here. Although...
yeah, mostly, right? Gascon and Brest looks like an agreed upon, but it's fine.
Nothing in position to take both Brest and Paris in the turn, which is what, makes it likely it was agreed upon. We also see a convoy paradox happening here. Fun little thing with Baltic convoying Berlin up to Sweden, and Sweden supports the move from Bothnia to Baltic. The reason that's a paradox is that this Berlin to Sweden should cut this support, which would make this fail, right?
Alright, I'm just gonna say, I suspect the people who are gonna watch part 4 of the longest game marathon and are 2.5 hours in have seen the convoy paradox before.
Probably. Also, I think actually I've gotten this wrong, right? This one isn't a paradox because this just gets dislodged off the bat immediately. So this move never happens in the first place.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is the paradox. Because theoretically, if Berlin could cut Sweden, then Bothnia wouldn't dislodge Baltic.
Yeah.
Right? It's just... they say that convoys happen later in the phase, essentially. And so as a result, this is not a paradox.
Yeah.
Alright, that's how we got around it.
I think
if you don't know that, if they haven't retconned.
There are situations where it's more paradoxical.
I think this is very clear, actually. This is what I don't... to my eyes, this is the convoy paradox. But yeah, we see it, and we see Sweden stay as a result.
Yep.
So, solid for the Russian, and retake St. Pete. Also solid for the Russian.
Yep.
Sweden is probably gonna fall after losing Norway, but
and
it's okay.
Baltic is pushed into Prussia, which is not a nice place for it to be in. That's not a fleet province.
Not at all.
Yeah. Norway just get dislodged, but again, it's going to the French. Germany has to be starting to think, hey, this French player is gaining SCs a hell of a lot faster than I am in this war.
Yeah, and I'm losing a supply center to him anyways.
Yep.
Dude, if I'm France, I might move to Picardy. I might not take Brest this turn. Just be like, you know what, Germany? We're good. Marseille is just going to be in Burgundy. It's going to help you out. And then you pull another army in Marseille and just be like, what? Look, man, I'm gonna help you. I could have taken Brest, but I'm not. You want to let me into Ruhr? Ruhr's a
It
nice
should be
place.
said that you're not guaranteed to get Norway here, so you might not be able to build in Marseille. It's the only issue with that. But yes, it is absolutely possible that France could just immediately launch an attack on Germany here. I think you just go for the Brest and Paris
Yeah, I
first,
think
though.
taking your home supply
Yeah,
centers is good,
it's
right?
kind
Like,
of
you can take them
important.
one at a time, and then Germany won't be pissed at you, etc. Yeah, that's fine.
But I feel like Germany has to start making up with the Russian now. Not doing so feels like it would be a big mistake. In the
Yeah, and I mean, to the Germans' credit, I believe the German tried to do this last year,
Yep, with the convoy.
right? But the Russians said no, and now Germany kind of feels like, no, well, you said no to me last year. I don't want to work with you now, but Germany probably does need to work with the Russian.
Yeah.
And the Russian needs to work with the German too, because this South is not looking. Wait a minute, I'm an idiot. Hold up.
Uh,
Budapest and Serbia went into Albania and Serbia instead. So Austria and Russia are on the same team.
Now they are, yeah, it looks like. Although Bohemia does go to Galicia, which is an interesting move.
I guess we're just worried about Russia making that move.
Yeah, Warsaw into Galicia, maybe. But yes, so Austria is now positioned to take Greece. Could be the end for the to the Turk,
could be.
especially considering that Russian. Well, I mean, actually, not especially considering the Russian fleet went to the wrong coast.
Yeah, I would expect Ionian to support hold Greece here, though.
Yeah, because well, I mean, actually, like looking at all this, the Austrian move in Italian don't look particularly anti. In Italy, don't look particularly anti-Italy anyway. Moving to Piedmont of all places.
Yeah, but Italy is definitely assuming they're anti-Italian, right?
Yes.
I expect we're going to see Turanian seat at Naples and Ionian support hold Greece, and then Naples into Apulia, and then Ionian continues support holding Greece.
Yeah.
Right?
I wonder if you
That's
just
my expectation.
ask France to support whole Greece instead and go up to Adriatic.
That'd be nice, yeah, but I don't know if I trust the French to do that. Because, again, I think France would rather see Austria beat Italy out. So, but maybe he would do it for a couple turns, right? Maybe he would hold Greece for a year.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the Austrian switching sides here, it's probably a good thing for him. Like identifying that Russia is at its weakest right now. So, well, I mean,
Yeah.
you could strike the blow that would well take Romania and push in, but that does
Yes.
kind of take. Sorry, go.
If you take Romania, you could also, right, you're in position on Bulgaria. You have 3, and you'd need coordination from the rest to hold it, which I don't expect Turkey would support Bulgaria, right? You've been working with Turkey for this whole game, and if you'd gone after Romania, Turkey would still be in Bulgaria, which would have made the Turk happy, I assume.
Yeah.
So I don't think, I don't expect Turkey to work against you. Maybe you can still get Turkey to cut Bulgaria. But no, you just move to Albania. There's no way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Austria could have capitalized on this war. Although I guess maybe the thought is this FG is going to lock up the north if I do kill Russia here, right? I want him to keep his northern fleets on the board so that they're harassing the German, but you kind of want France is the big threat here, not Germany.
Yeah, I think you could make a claim that you and France can race, and if you win the race, you'll win the solo because you can get to Munich and Berlin for your 18 and 19. Right? So you just take Romania, and then you try to get into Ukraine and Sevastopol because you try to rip Turkey out from the south and the east.
Yeah.
But France has that fleet in the Eastern Med, now Aegean. So if France doesn't want Turkey to get broken, Turkey, in this case being Russia, then Russia never gets broken in the south.
Yeah.
And you never get there.
Yeah, it's a weird position. But yes.
I'd have taken the dot. I'd have taken the dots last year. I'd have taken the dots this year. I would have taken all the dots.
Yep, this moveset in particular seems a lot better if you had stabbed Italy the turn before. Like, you're now committing fully to the war with Italy, which...
But, like, not even fully to the war with Italy, right? If you were committing fully to the war with Italy, then Venice would have gone to Tuscany or Apulia.
Yep.
Bohemia would have gone to Tyrolia.
It's true.
But you're not, right? Bohemia went to Galicia. It's like you were worried about... I don't know why Serbia went to Albania. That's really the move that I'm questioning. Because it just says, I want to kill Turkey in Greece. And, like, do you want to kill Turkey in Greece? I guess.
Yeah, well, I guess it's a censor. Maybe he's just thinking I can put off my decision for a year,
okay,
but then it's...
hold up. So maybe we can talk Turkey into not dying, right? Maybe we can talk Turkey into cutting Bulgaria, and Galicia supports Serbia into Romania, and Albania goes back into Serbia, and Trieste goes into Budapest.
That just feels like a waste of time. Why did you move the other
Maybe
way?
that's why we moved into Piedmont, right? Because we wanted to balance ourselves in Trieste. Maybe that's the line, but we're still taking Romania.
Alright. I kind of
Like,
just...
then Turkey still needs to cut Bulgaria for us.
I kind
Why
of
would
just
they
want to
cut
see what
Bulgaria?
actually happens here. Would you be down to move to
Alright.
the fall?
Let's see it.
Let's go ahead and see. Okay. I mean, the Austrian turned around and took Bulgaria.
But not Romania. He took Bulgaria.
If you're
okay.
doing this, what? I mean, I assume it was with the Russian agreement, given the Russian moving back.
Maybe France said, "Hey, I'm going to support Greece, so you can't take it. Do something else, buddy."
Yep. And then Russia goes, okay, you can just have Bulgaria then, as long as you stay on my side. That makes sense. Yeah.
And then just tap Romania and Budapest to keep each other honest. Sure.
Yep.
So Austria's building one. So in the north, we see Livonia convoy to Sweden with support. I believe it makes it into Sweden.
Yes, it does. But it may not have been agreed upon this time. Well, it looks like it probably wasn't agreed upon. Because, I mean, it leaves them tangled up in Baltic and so on.
Yes.
Although the Russian does commit fully to pushing the French fleet out of Norway, which was...
Yes.
Yep. Manages to keep that centre and take St. Petersburg back, so he's net the same in this area, plus a German army out of Livonia. That feels like it's a solid thing for him.
Yes.
With regard to the convoy, this time it could well have been, I think this army is going to get forced here, I need to get it out.
Could be. But I think it's more likely that Germany is eyeing France.
Yeah.
Saying, I need to keep more units into the west, and France is now in position to fight me very effectively. He has as many on Burgundy as I do. He is about to retake Paris, and then he's probably going to take Burgundy by the end of the year. Like, okay.
Yep. He actually has 3 on Burgundy now because this is the build phase, and he just took Brest.
Well, Brest doesn't border Burgundy yet.
Oh yeah, no,
right?
it doesn't.
So it was Marseille and Gascony is the 2, and then he moves Brest to Paris to get the 3rd at the end of in the fall.
Yes.
But then he's going to build in Brest or Marseille anyways, potentially both. So.
Yeah. Yep, Germany has to be thinking that's a threat. And Germany does not have a ton of units right now. They have a few, but it's still not.
Yeah. Germany really wants to get Baltic disbanded.
Yes, for sure. Which raises the question of why didn't you try and do it here? I suppose because Livonia would have bounced back. Yep. And you want to take the centre more that you want to get rid of the fleet. You can get rid of the fleet this next turn and then on the retreats phase say to Russia, hey, if you get rid of that, I'll make a move on France.
Yeah, I mean, I think the move on France needs to have been made already by that time.
Yeah.
Because France will be bouncing out of Burgundy and France will be getting that position again.
I mean, you could sort of semi-make the move on France in that move Berlin to Munich, Munich to Ruhr or whatever, or just Kiel to Ruhr would make more sense, right?
Yeah, but then you have lost Burgundy already, right?
Yep. This is true, and they've got North Sea.
The moves you gotta make, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, Germany is in a pretty terrifying situation here.
By virtue of being Germany.
Yep.
Let's see some builds, shall we? We're going to see
we didn't mention
an Austrian build and a French build.
We didn't mention the Austrian-Italian war, but it kind of went exactly how we said it would, right? Move up to Adriatic, move into Naples, Italy committing pretty hard into getting this Austrian army out of Venice. Which,
for the surprise of everyone, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think at this point it might be in the Austrians' interest to just back out of Venice and say, hey, you can have that back, because they are going to lose it with this Naples fleet coming round to Apulia next turn.
Well, if Vienna gets into Tyrolia, right?
Then they can hold it, but then you're committing 3 units to holding 1 center. It feels bad.
Yeah, but you're keeping Italy there.
Yeah.
Not the worst. You can still take Romania, probably.
Yeah, this is true, but I guess this all stems back to, this would have been so much better if you went and took both of them at once. Anyway, let's go ahead to winter, as you said. Winter 1936. Germany has to disband one. That makes sense. Prussia is like the least useful unit on the board right here. Army Marseille makes sense. Army Vienna is like the anti-Italian move here. Yeah. Anything else you want to say about those? Well, I feel like we've already covered the Marseille unit pretty in depth.
Yeah. Germany versus France. Let's see it.
Yep. Let's go ahead to spring 1937.
Or we don't see it.
We do not. They're still aligned. They're just... Germany is letting... So Russia actually issues a bunch of supports. Wait. Okay, hang on. Let me untangle this north, because this is quite a hard map to read. France tries to support the German from Sweden to Norway. Germany, instead of doing that, offers a support hold to the Russian unit in Norway. So saying, hey, I'm your friend. Russia tries to support the German army in Sweden back to Denmark, and the German unit in Heligoland bite up to North Sea. So saying, okay, back off me, we'll be friends here, we'll go to war against France together. And Germany goes, no, I'll throw you a support hold. We're friends, but we're not that much friends. I think I'm going to go back to being what I was, like, back when you were both mega powers, and be that sort of balancing force between the two of you. Which might be the wrong decision here, because I don't see how Germany holds out against France all that easily going forward.
Well, it helps by France not trying to take Burgundy.
Yep, that certainly helps it. That may have been triggered by the Austrian trying to move to Piedmont here. Maybe he publicized that and said, okay, Italy, I'm going against France now. But I don't know that France needed to cover that, given that Italy was going all out against Austria here anyway. It's, yeah.
I mean, France is still taking Paris, right?
Yeah.
France is still building?
France is happy with this, given the German didn't go into Burgundy. I think France is perfectly happy to leave it a year of peace, get another build, and then go to war with Germany, because then they have even more an advantage.
Probably this time Fleet Brest.
Yes, I think so too. Army Brest is a possibility with
you want to get English Channel, right?
But yes, English Channel feels better. I mean, that pretty much covers the north, right? Anything else you want to mention up there?
That's it. And then in the east, it's like, Vienna to Tyrolia, which we mentioned. Galicia to Budapest, interestingly.
Yeah, that's just covering against Romania, I suppose. But Warsaw comes to Galicia, which is probably not what the Austrian wants to see. Interestingly, France does not support hold Greece. They try to support Greece up, but Greece doesn't bother going up, and Austria doesn't bother trying for Greece either. So it's sort of like a big, kumbaya down there of no one actually attacking each other.
Yeah, in that position, I would have been very tempted as Austria to kick Greece into Ionian, because I hope that Ionian would then take Tunis.
Yeah. And it almost certainly would have done, right?
Yeah, unless France would have supported Ionian back to Greece.
Yeah, but even if you've got free access to Tunis and, like, maybe access to Greece, as
Yeah,
a Turk who's trying to survive, you will go to Tunis every single time because you want to survive.
probably.
Um,
I would probably go to Tunis in that situation. Yes.
yeah, and the Austrian presumably knew that Constantinople was cutting Aegean here anyway, so they knew that they could have gotten Greece. They just decided not to, which is an odd choice. Maybe they feel like they need the fleet now that.
Yeah, Greece is support holding Bulgaria, but it's a fine unit to have.
Yep. And
So
especially
they need
now
to take it
that
in.
Austria has
Sorry?
annoyed, especially now that Austria has annoyed the Italian, they kind of need the fleets if they're going to stay balanced with Russia in the south, right?
Yeah, I mean, Russia only has one fleet, so it's not that important, but they do want a fleet.
Yeah. Okay. That's pretty much everything down here. It's not
Not a super crazy turn. So much holding in the north, right? Every unit in the west didn't move.
apart from Paris.
Literally all of
Well,
them.
Brest, Paris.
Ooh, Brest to Paris, yes. Sorry. But everything else held,
Yep.
which makes it a lot easier to analyze.
For sure.
And I mean, in the east, the only units that moved were Naples, Vienna, and Warsaw, right?
Yeah, and Galicia,
So,
but
like,
yes.
yes, yeah.
There
So,
were
like,
five
units moving the whole board.
moves total. This is a big change from like a couple phases ago, but this is as a result, direct result of France getting strong. I think everything sort of, the whole board dynamic changes.
Stalls.
Yeah.
Yep. Alright,
Alright.
let's go to the fall, eh?
Full time.
Okay, so...
Alright, we do see movement now. We see the Russian fleet getting disbanded in Baltic, which is exactly what you said Germany needed to do, and
Yes.
Russia takes it off.
Interestingly, that happened when Berlin was vacated. Russia could have retreated into Berlin. But he said, no, I value our alliance more.
Yep.
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, and Germany moves to Ruhr and Munich, getting into position on Burgundy here now that France has
And in Holland. So, yeah, Belgium is going to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, can France even make... I feel like now that Russia and Germany are clearly working together to some degree... I mean, obviously, the German didn't take the Russian support on either of these, but France can't hold North Sea, so they're gonna get pushed back here if the two of them do decide to make moves.
Yeah, and France needs to get the army in Brest to get into Picardy, and they need to pull Norwegian to North Sea to English Channel, Brent to Norwegian.
Yeah.
Right? So you do something like that to get it? Man, that's tough. That sucks. Man, if I'm France, you gotta strike while the iron's a little bit hot. I think the iron got heated up, and then he let it cool down.
Yep. And then in the south, we see Italy retaking Venice, and using the fleet presumably to dissuade Austria from retreating to Tuscany, because if they use the army... No, because they had a build, they should have just taken it with the army, I suppose, and then threatened to build Army Rome if Austria didn't take it off the board. But hey, they take it with the fleet. They put a fleet in Venice, which I usually criticize, but hey, they survived with a fleet in Venice on its own a while ago, so what am I to say? Who am I to say that? And nothing else happens. Russia moves into Ukraine and Sevastopol, and everything else bounces.
Yeah.
Yep.
Austria didn't take Romania.
Yeah. Austria wants to
have.
keep their alliance with Russia strong.
Yeah, I mean, Russia has suddenly just made friends with Austria and Germany, the only two people who can attack him. So Russia's position now seems very, very safe.
Yep. This seems correct, and I guess France was hoping for support to Constantinople, but obviously does not happen because the Austrian is happy to stick with the Russian. It does open questions of where does the Austrian go now, because their push into Italy is completely countered, and they're being all, friends with the Russian, so they've got nothing they can really do if they don't go for one of those two. Or for Germany, but going for Germany feels like it might be a bad idea unless Germany starts making progress against the French.
Yeah,
Right. So that's pretty much everything here. I don't even think anyone gets any builds. Oh, for Italy does,
No, I mean,
and France does.
France gets the build, Italy gets the build. I
Um,
think that's it.
yep. Austria doesn't even build despite his forced disband because he lost the
Wait,
center
what did
window.
Germany get anything? Because if Germany didn't get anything, Germany has to disband.
Germany did. Why would Germany have to? Oh yeah, because they
Because of
lost
Paris.
Paris.
And did Russia lose anything? Because
Russia
Russia disbanded Baltic Sea.
Russia did not lose anything, so they'll be building
Okay,
as
so
well.
Russia's placing a unit,
I'll
despite.
assume that Germany is going to disband Baltic, given their
I
newfound
mean,
alliance, or
yeah,
Sweden.
right. And considering they control Sweden now, so it's less important.
Yeah, actually, Army Sweden might be better because that's an army and this is a fleet in Scandinavia. But yes, so let's go ahead to the winter.
Sure.
Okay.
It is Fleet Brest.
Okay.
It is Fleet Naples. It is Army Moscow. Okay.
Yeah, this all seems pretty reasonable. The Fleet Brest is like, now Picardy is
I
open
like
for the
it.
German, but you can't defend
I'll take
both.
Picardy with the fleet. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
It still supports into Belgium.
Yep, this is true.
You just rather have an army there, but the fleet's fine. And like this is just a waiting game for the next French NMR, right?
I guess so, but now France is like on top, they might be less likely to NMR. I guess we'll see.
Dude, France was NMRing at like 13 centers, right?
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Oh man. This French fleet in Aegean we've been kind of completely ignoring as well. I wonder if that's actually going to have an impact at some point. It kind of needs to come back.
I mean, has it done anything that mattered in this game?
No. I don't think so.
Right, I don't think that fleet caused.
Oh, it did
Okay,
one
I
thing.
think
One thing that mattered in that it didn't cut Smyrna on one specific phase.
Okay, yeah, but like not cutting Smyrna doesn't quite count as mattering. Didn't it support Greece into Bulgaria once? Didn't it get Turkey into
I
Bulgaria?
think that was the Italian fleet.
Oh.
But I might be mistaken on that.
So if that's true, I'm gonna go back in time real quick. Just check this fleet. Make sure it hasn't done literally anything that's mattered.
Okay. Well, I'll talk about while that Ezio is doing that. I guess I'll talk about Fleet Naples build, which is a sign of pro-Austrianness, I guess. The fact that Naples was their only open center for building because they didn't support him from Rome was kind of meant it had to be a fleet because Army Naples is a really horrible unit to have unless you have a unit in Ionian or Tyrrhenian Sea to convoy it out, which Italy does not. So,
Yeah, I want you to know you were absolutely correct. That fleet in Aegean has never done anything to be of any value.
it should have
Right?
gone
Nobody
to
has
Tunis.
accepted its support, and it has not cut anyone's support that would have done anything.
It should have gone to Tunis when I said it should have gone to Tunis. But yes.
I agreed with you. I agreed with you about it going to Tunis.
Oh, which fleet is the one that was on our Syrian expedition that was in Mid-Atlantic Ocean in 1930?
Oh my god. I forgot.
That might be Barents, actually, at this point. I wonder if it is.
Please.
Actually, I think it's more likely to be North Sea. But...
Alright, so at 1930, it was the fleet in Mid-Atlantic Ocean, right?
Yes, in winter 1930.
Okay, so it moved to Irish Sea.
Right.
Then it took English Channel.
Okay.
Then it supported into London. Then it supported London, and now it's in North Sea. Then it supported a thing into Norway. And it is in North Sea in spring 1937.
Okay. So yeah, this is this North Sea fleet has been all the way to Syria and then back to here.
Started in Marseille.
If that fleet ever gets forced, I'm gonna be very sad.
Yeah.
But yes, so shall we move ahead to the spring of 1938? Let's...
Oh, we were in winter 1937. Now we're in spring 1938.
Yes,
Absolutely.
we are. let's go ahead to that. Okay, movement. The Russian, specifically, and no one else.
Okay, so France holds Germany and thereabouts. Oh, Brest to English Channel. Brest to English Channel's a move.
That does happen.
And Naples to Ionian, that's a move.
Yeah, and Tyrolia to Piedmont is also a move, which is actually quite important, because I assume that's anti-French, right?
Looks like it.
Yeah. Which actually evens out this war. English Channel versus English Channel on one side, Piedmont on the other side, can both cut Belgium/Marseille, so keep these two nations even on Burgundy. Yeah. So
great. And Russia's defending Turkey and is looking to take Bulgaria, right?
Seems that way.
But Serbia and Greece are going to hold Bulgaria, and there's a fleet in the Aegean, so Russia can't get out that way.
Yep. So I guess...
Yep, nothing's going to happen here for a long time.
Not much going on. Do you think it's a mistake that France is not backing away with Barents? I mean, I suppose they couldn't this phase anyway, because North Sea was under attack.
Yeah, I think these are the best moves from France tactically. Norwegian Sea support holding North Sea, and then Barents Sea covering Norway. Tapping Norway to stop Norway from supporting anything in the North Sea, right? This is the best way to save the North Sea, most likely way. And now English Channel can hold North Sea.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Hold up. Did anyone take over France? At some point in this game, right? Did France get replaced?
I think at some point... I remember T. Broadley commented on our first web diplomacy post about this series, saying that he swapped out for Lando Calrissian at some point or another, who was a very prolific gunboat player on web diplomacy. But I don't know when, or whether it was a temporary substitution or not. I know that T. Broadley was playing again at the end of the game, or at least, yeah, when... From some point onwards, T. Broadley was playing, so Lando might have been in for a bit in the middle. I'm not entirely sure.
Sure. And, like, because these French moves to me look a lot better than the French moves in the past. Right? Like, since there was the time where he, like, NMR'd, made a move, NMR made a move, and then he NMR'd one last time, I think, and then since that last NMR... I've really liked the play. It feels like a different player.
Right.
I mean...
It still feels like... I feel like it was the same player just because of how slowly he was going around Brest and Paris, taking things. But it could well have been a new one.
Who knows? Feels like a different player to me.
Okay.
Anyways, shall we see the fall?
Yeah, let's go ahead to the fall. Not much more to talk about here. And Germany actually takes Burgundy thanks to the Austrian tap on Marseille.
Yeah, and France not going from Marseille.
And just as you say, France's orders are good. they order Barents to Norwegian instead of Barents to Norway, which
doesn't matter because they had an English channel.
It could have cost them North Sea because both Norway and Skagerrak supported Heligoland up to North Sea. If Denmark and Heligoland had gone with that, they would have lost the North Sea.
Yeah.
But
it didn't.
Yeah, it did not. So it's fine, I suppose.
And Germany's in Burgundy. Yeah, so this is going to be hard for France now because Burgundy and Piedmont are going to work well against Marseille. So Gascony needs to work to hold Marseille, but then Burgundy can also mess with Picardy. And English Channel's not in Picardy. Yeah, this is going to be tough. They're really or France/England, whatever, at this point does need to get Barents Sea back, right? If you teleport Barents Sea over to Picardy, then their position is still fine, right? It's still going to deteriorate slowly as North Sea gets taken back, etc., but...
Yep.
It's going to be so slow. But, like, again, nothing happened in the east, right?
Basically nothing. The only moves were Armenia to Smyrna and Rome to Tuscany, neither of which really do anything.
Yeah, or there's no other moves on the board. So like, yeah, maybe France is gonna try to hold on for as long as possible, but the rest of the board just says, screw it, all input, all holds until France is taken off the board.
I do love the French units in Aegean consistently supporting Greece to Bulgaria, despite Greece never going to Bulgaria.
Yeah, you know what unit they really should teleport to Picardy? Aegean Sea.
Yes.
Right? If Aegean Sea was in Picardy, then France is actually basically stalemated, right? Not quite a stalemate, right? Not actually. But Gascony support holds Marseille, and Paris support hold Picardy, and Barentsz taps Norway, while Norwegian and English Channel support hold North Sea. Like, it's going to take a long time, a long, long time for that to get broken.
Yep. I
But
mean, I know I can't say, like, it will be this exact position, because it almost certainly wouldn't, butterfly effect and all, but if France had taken Tunis, when I said, France, you should take Tunis, they would now have an additional unit at home,
there.
yeah, which
Yeah,
would be huge.
absolutely, man. But there would be a lot of differences in that
Yes,
game. But
I think so
yeah,
too.
instead, this fleet in Aegean, and this is funny, Greece and Ionian are supporting each other, right? So Aegean is never going to get popped,
Yep.
right? If nobody ever attacks Aegean. So, and Ionian and Greece are going to support each other. So France, as long as Germany and Russia can be sure to pop units as they take centers, France can just be stuck with this fleet in Aegean that they would love to pop.
I would love to see, like, the public press going, please, someone kill my fleet.
Yeah, they'll hold that
No.
fleet in Aegean hostage.
Yep.
All right.
So, shall we go to winter and do some power rankings here?
Screw power rankings.
No power rankings? You sure?
We'll
Oh,
do power
there's no,
rankings again at the
there's
end.
no winter. Okay, well, we'll skip power rankings for now, and let's just keep going. I do
Alright,
actually
so-
have a deadline on when I need to be done tonight. So we have
Okay.
about 40 minutes left.
40 minutes? Okay. We'll
For
finish
2
by then. There's
years,
only
yeah,
2 years.
that's certainly.
And these years, nothing is happening in any of these turns, so it's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
I say that as France gets lets stuff happen. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so let's have a look at the north here, because that's where things are happening. North Sea gets dislodged because Barents and Norwegian finally pull back, which is arguably a good decision. You kind of do want to get that Barents Sea fleet out of there, but then at the same time, they pull Paris up to Picardy? I don't know that that's... I mean, I suppose that's deliberately to try and bounce a supported attack on Picardy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's just a misguess in that case. And yes, it did manage to get rid of the Burgundy's ability to get up there, so it wasn't entirely misguessed, but would have been better for France if they'd have stayed in Paris, I think.
Yeah. Then retreated to Yorkshire to keep the maximum guesses alive around Edinburgh and London.
Yep.
I think that's totally reasonable when you're trying to defend like this, because, yeah, you don't want it to be clear what's happening, but
Though the correct guess on the German part would probably be convoy Holland to Yorkshire, right?
that's probably a likely move to succeed.
Yep. And yeah, although that does leave Belgium undefended, which is the downside to that. There are 2 units on
Burgundy
Belgium
can
right
support Belgium, and Gascony and Marseille are kind of tied up, right? Like, Gascony is super likely to support hold Marseille here.
Yep. France is basically doing everything they can to try and break people up. They supported Denmark up to Skagerrak, which did not work. They tried to support Tuscany to Piedmont, which Italy is not going for it either, despite what the Austrian did to them previously. And they tried to support Bulgaria into Constantinople, which wouldn't have gone anyway, but Bulgaria doesn't accept...
Doesn't this look like a different French player than the French player we had previously? The one who was just sitting around sort of mindlessly taking dots that they could see and, like, not trying to affect much of anything,
Yeah.
right? Was now, like, they're trying to break things up. They're clearly active in the press. I mean, obviously no one's listening to them, right? They're not being more successful than the previous French player. It just looks like a different style of play. And, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Especially, like... stuff like constantly supporting Greece to Bulgaria, supporting to Bulgaria to Constantinople, despite it obviously not doing stuff.
Yeah, that one I think was more of a troll.
Well, this makes me think it might be the gunboat player, Lando, because gunboat players stick in supports they know won't work quite often just to signal that they're, friendly and they're willing to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, I do love that Bulgaria receives support holds from 5 of the 6 provinces it can receive support holds from on this turn. But yes.
It got supported by every province that can ever support Bulgaria, right?
Apart from Aegean. Well, yeah, it got supported.
Aegean supported Bulgaria to Khan, right?
Yes. So it did get supported by every province, yes. It was missing one support hold.
If you could order support to Bulgaria this turn, or any turn, theoretically, that happened in this board. That's funny.
Yep. Okay, so the South is literally just a hugfest until they decide that, the East has become...
They want to kill Lando. They're so pissed with Lando that he's got to go.
Yep.
Sure.
Okay, so let's go to fall 1939 here, see if anything happens. The answer is no. On the south side, anyway. On the north side, things do happen, but not a lot.
I want to see Eastern Med move to Syria. Please disband me. I want to get popped.
Okay, so Eastern Med, Aegean, Ionian was open. They could have gone back through.
Whoa, wait, what? I'm sorry, I missed that. When did Ionian went back to Naples?
Ionian went back to Naples for no...
Oh.
Let me just back off.
Then why didn't Aegean move to Ionian?
This feels like a bad... this is a bad move from the Italian, because Aegean would have gone back through and presumably taken Tunis.
Yeah.
And 2, it's a bad move from the French player not going for it, although I kind of... I get not thinking that Ionian probably won't stay open, so it would be a useless move, but is Eastern Mediterranean really that much more useful?
I don't know, man. But Eastern Med is further east, right?
Yeah.
So it's further away from Ionian.
It's clearly got more solo potential because it's further away from your homes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though it's the same number of steps away from your homes, but yes.
So other than that, nothing happened in the east, right?
Yep.
Okay, great.
That was the only thing that happened in the east.
In the west, France attacked Burgundy with 2, and would have caused Burgundy to retreat into Paris because Picardy was not covering Paris, but Burgundy was already in Picardy, which then retreated to Brest.
Yeah.
And Piedmont did not even try to tap Marseille. Piedmont just held. Right? So Piedmont didn't even walk into Marseille, which would have been vacant.
So, interestingly, Italy tried to support Austria away from Piedmont back into Tyrolia, which makes me think the Eastern powers are at least considering turning on Germany here.
Yeah, it's the worry is that the German-Russian alliance, again, that we had previously, is potentially too much.
Yep.
So they want to let France gain the upper hand again, because France just lost the North Sea.
Yep.
Maybe that's it.
That seems reasonable, but Austria trying to be as neutral as possible on that, I think. They're probably going, okay, I'm the loser if we go to war here, because Russia takes Bulgaria off of me, I'm at Italy's mercy on this side, right? I don't really want a war to happen.
Although I'm sure that France is sad that he left... Hold up. First of all, Russia doesn't take Bulgaria as long as Greece keeps supporting Bulgaria.
Oh yeah, that's true. But...
And so this way France can't mess with it. So maybe this is France's way of saying, hey, Austria, you can totally stab Russia now.
Yeah, maybe. No, that actually makes sense. It's France moving away saying, I'm not going to assist the Russian. Although they could move right back if they wanted to.
Yeah, it's not the most valuable assurance of an extra half a year.
Yeah, but looking at the north here, no one makes any progress aside from this move, these moves in the French homeland. And these French moves seem quite bad. The whole dislodging the German army potentially into Paris is...
questionable.
Yeah, very questionable. But then what else?
And then
Picardy...
attempting to dislodge the North Sea while keeping Edinburgh and London vacant.
Yep.
So... I mean, look, if France had successfully dislodged these units, they would have retreated into their home centers, right?
Yeah.
And again, I'm not trying to say that I think that the new French player is like better than the old French player. It just the moves feel different. It feels like a different player in the last like 5 years or 6 years or so.
Yep. No.
And it's possible I'm completely wrong, right? It's possible that I have no idea that in fact the same player, but like the boards felt a little different. But
It turns out these French moves ended up being correct, right?
these French moves are fucking beautiful. They were like the only better moves, maybe arguably would have been supporting Picardy back into Burgundy, but like I think you'd rather be in Burgundy, be in Burgundy and have them in Picardy.
I think the only differences they should have done is Picardy moving to Paris instead of supporting this move to try and prevent this retreat. Like the move to English to, and honestly English to North Sea they shouldn't have supported with Yorkshire. They should have just like maybe double tapped it.
Yeah, or something.
Yeah.
Or covered Edinburgh and London, honestly, but I think that would have obviously gone terribly.
Yeah, I think
as we can see.
This is a really nice move in that it protects against that convoy from Holland to Yorkshire that I was talking about, which I feel like is the most likely move for a very high level player to make, right?
Sure.
Because
but then an even higher level player would convoy straight into Edinburgh.
Yep. It's mind games. But yeah. So but yeah, you can't really criticize these French moves from hindsight because they ended up working out perfectly. This was the best situation they could have gotten. It's not a good situation still by any means, but it is the best they had.
But it's a French situation, so it's not that bad either.
True. Yep. And
right? Again, we've got 3 countries. I'm counting the one Austrian unit as a third country, which is maybe a bit much. Coordinating against France, but France is saying, dude, I'm France, bite me. Come at me, bro. What you gonna do? It's gonna take you years.
Yep. Well, okay, shall we go to winter here? Winter 1939. There are... Wait, there's no builds, so we skip winter again.
Yep.
So, we see a German NMR. Which is a bad time for Germany to NMR.
There goes Picardy.
But there also goes Marseille.
Yeah, but there goes Belgium.
Okay, yeah.
Right. Probably. No, not probably.
No.
Never mind.
Because
they can cover it with North Sea and Munich both covering Belgium.
Yep.
But that just keeps it static. Oh wait, no. Piedmont can cut Burgundy as well, so then Munich can go to Ruhr or something. Anyways, Picardy getting disbanded is of course huge.
Yep.
That's I think the biggest.
Yeah, this was a painful NMR for the German just for that one disband. It's they had a very good position on the French player before, and now it's from this position they should have either been able to keep Picardy, which is probably not what they would have done, or take Burgundy, or maybe even... No, they can't do both, right? They could... they should have taken Burgundy most likely from this position.
Well, from this, so if with France doing the moves that France did, right? North Sea cuts English Channel and Belgium supports Munich to Burgundy does work.
Yeah, that's true. And North Sea to English Channel doesn't really have a downside aside from not going for Edinburgh or London, which is actually another reason why this NMR is painful. You could have picked up Edinburgh or London here.
Yeah, but if we're assuming we would have convoyed to Yorkshire instead, then it didn't matter.
Yeah. Oh man. I missed the best unit on the board. The move. It's back in Syria. France has colored it back in.
Dude, I mean, this fleet has its job, and it is doing its job, man.
I guess it might be asking to get force disbanded by the Russian, which would explain Sev to arm. But why would the Russian do that when they're allied to the German? I don't think they would.
Oh. Maybe because they don't want that fleet being in Eastern Med even more, because that's the only way that they can get broken, right?
That's true. Yeah, and with the Italian moving... Well, I was going to say the Italian is moving against the French, but it's only one fleet. The other fleet went up to Venice for some reason. This Italian really likes putting fleets in Venice.
Yep.
And the other one supported Budapest, Trieste? What?
Whatever, man.
Yeah, the East doesn't really matter at this point. They're all still singing Kumbaya and throwing support holds on Bulgaria. You notice the Russian has switched Black Sea from support holding Bulgaria to support holding Romania. These are interesting developments over here.
I mean, it's a better support, right? There's 3 on Romania, so you might as well.
But yes.
Yeah, but that's the most exciting thing that's happened in the East in the last, 3 years. So let's stop talking about it, and let's... and in the West, we had Germany NMR'd, so nothing happened in the West either.
Except for Piedmont to Marseille, which is huge, especially considering France has also left Spain open and Portugal open, and Austria could just make a straight run for Portugal with this army, which would be terrible but also hilarious.
Probably just stay in Marseille.
Yes.
Right? And then let Tourney and Sea go to fully on our Western Med or something, then that's going to try to pick up Iberia.
Yeah.
Right. That's fine.
But yes, this one Austrian unit in Marseille counterbalances the French hugely, I think. Moving Gascony to Paris ends up costing them in that respect.
Yeah, but it's whatever.
Yeah, well, shall we go to the fall of 1940 here?
Let's look at the last potential moves of this thing.
This episode.
Okay.
No, it's the Austrians' turn to NMR.
Austrian NMR, yeah, but Austria NMR'd when 4 of Austria's units have NMR'd for the last 3 years anyways, and Marseille wanted to stay in Marseille.
Yep.
So, it's possible Austria was here and literally was just yeah, whatever.
Yep.
Okay. So...
France just doesn't care about their Iberian centers, it looks like. They want to go at Germany.
And they actually forced the North Sea. Can I tell you how many times I've seen the North Sea get hard forced with no legal retreats?
Yeah,
because it does not happen frequently.
That's insane. This never happens. You have to cover 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 provinces. They successfully did that. It seems like it was by accident.
I mean, because they vacated Norwegian Sea, and it just happened to be that the Russian ended up in Norwegian Sea, and they needed the Germans to cover Helgoland-Bite, which the Germans did, and Denmark, which the German did. The German needed to then get bounced to stay into Holland, out of Ruhr, and they needed to knock it into Belgium. And yeah, I mean, hey.
Wow.
It happened.
Yeah, I guess the Russian... Well, this was an attempted forward retreat, right? It's the Russian knocking the North Sea out to try and retreat us into Edinburgh or London.
Into one of the empty centres, absolutely.
But France correctly predicted that they would go for one of those centres and covered all of them.
Yep.
And yeah, ended up being huge.
Yeah, I think France is regretting moving North Atlantic Ocean to Clyde instead of to Norwegian Sea.
Yep, that would have been far better.
You don't want the Russian and Norwegian Sea, but maybe he did. Maybe he says, you know what, my south is crumbling. I need Russia to make forward progress before we can go anywhere.
Because then the south might turn on them.
France gets to disband his fleet in Syria.
Yep. Well, I wonder if he just keeps it on the board for the memes.
Please don't.
No, he's got another holy fleet now. It's been coloured in. He can disband it. It's done its job. Which fleet is our other Syrian one? I think it's English Channel now.
It was.
Oh no, it's Yorkshire.
Now it's in Yorkshire.
It's Yorkshire. Okay, well that's a bad position for it to be in. It might get.
It's a little worrisome, yeah. That fleet, if we're talking about fleets that get popped, Yorkshire's a fleet that gets popped pretty frequently.
Yep. Is there much more to talk about here? Doesn't...
Tuscany's in Piedmont now, so it's possible Italy goes after Marseille instead of Spain.
Yep. I was wondering, is there any possibility this was a deliberate NMR on the Austrian part to not get out of Marseille and into Spain? But then I think there's no real reason why the Austrian would prefer being in Marseille to being in Spain, right?
It's whatever. Marseille borders Burgundy, right?
Yeah.
If you don't want to support Germany into Burgundy,
Oh, that
right?
would make
Maybe
sense.
Germany says, "Hey, I want you to support me into Burgundy," and Austria doesn't really want to do that because he wants to take Munich or something.
Then he just NMRs. Yeah, that makes sense. And it's a really interesting choice for France to abandon Iberia like this. It's 3 centres. That is a lot.
Yeah,
Admittedly,
it's
they need to get someone on their side diplomatically, but I don't know that this is the way to do it.
yeah, it's awkward because people usually take Iberia and then they take more centers.
Yep.
Right. People rarely just stop at Iberia, I have found in my personal experience. Either people from the north take Iberia and then flood the south, or people from the south take Iberia and then go north.
Yep.
But I don't usually see them. I mean, okay, I see them get stopped in Iberia. I take that back, right? They take they take Spain from the south, and there's 3 fleets supporting Mid-Atlantic Ocean, and so they're just like, all right, fine,
Yep.
fine, fine, fine. But
But
never when it's vacant do they just like not keep going.
yeah, and if they're like sometimes they keep going and say, okay, I'll prop you up in the north and I'll go into mid Atlantic, but that's temporary. You're still gonna lose your centers to them in time. But yes, I mean, shall we go to winter and do our power rankings here?
Sure.
Okay. I think there are builds this year because the German fleet got disbanded here. Why
And I
is
mean, Austria got Marseille, right?
why is the other German unit
Something
built?
got popped, right? North Sea
Oh,
got
Picardy
popped.
got popped as well. Yes.
Yeah.
And then Syria does unfortunately come off the board. We don't get to see that Southern Holy Crusade coming back again. But no, that's absolutely the right choice. This unit is not doing anything for France. And Fleet Army from Germany actually leaves them quite flexible to go after Russia if they want to, but they probably just stay hammering against France here. It might be different if France had turned around and defended its south, but I don't think Germany can afford to swap directions right now. You agree?
Yeah, counterpoint. France has a bunch of units in the north, and Germany isn't going to get any of the gains from France. Not
Yeah,
for a long time.
this is true, but like Picardy and Burgundy and English Channel kind of mean that you can't jump the other way without losing Belgium, right? I suppose
Yeah,
maybe
maybe they'll cost
Belgium
anyways.
maybe Belgium is an okay sacrifice to go after Warsaw and Moscow for, but
Yeah, Warsaw. He backed out of Sweden though, which makes it tougher. You can't even really take Norway.
yeah. Well, you have an excuse to go back into Sweden here, but yes, you'd have to leave it a year.
It's the excuse to go back to Sweden.
Kiel, can't get out otherwise.
Ooh, yeah. That's a good call. And then Denmark to Skagerrak, Helgoland to Denmark while you move into Berlin and Silesia.
Yeah, I think it's still unlikely to happen.
Very. I think Germany's going to stay in the West. So let's see. Now that happened, we know that Russia has no enemies and is on 9 centers. So Russia's
Yep.
number 1.
Russia is an obvious number 1 here, I think. And I would not be
We
surprised if they
see.
grow a lot in future. Well, no, actually, I can't see much growth for them apart from it looks slow, but they probably do get like England again.
Edinburgh. I don't know about the rest of England, but certainly Edinburgh.
Yeah. Who would you put in second here?
I don't know. Austria has no enemies, but a bunch of Russian units adjacent, which is very scary. Germany probably a second then, just because France is losing Spain and Portugal.
Yeah.
Then like Austria third, France fourth, Italy fifth, Turkey sixth.
I think I don't disagree on any of those. I look at the German position and I think, it could fall apart if... No, it can't really. It would need the Austrian to charge acid, and that seems like a bad decision from the Austrian right now. Because of all the Russian units on the other side. And yeah, I think I agree on Turkey and Italy as well. That seems like the most obvious ones. So, there are our final power rankings for this episode. Russia first, Germany second, Austria third, France all the way down from first a couple of years ago to fourth because he has everyone on the board working against him now. Italy...
Except Turkey.
Oh, yeah.
Turkey is not yet working against France.
This is true. But Turkey did decline his support to Bulgaria for like 3 years in a row.
Yes.
And then, Italy in 5th, and Turkey still sat down there in 6th. It's so close to getting Constantinople back, but unfortunately it was not to be, and he is sat back in Greece again waiting for his opportunity, which may never come now that all the fleets have vacated that region. Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about with this final board?
Not really.
Yeah. It does seem like France is going to be in a painful situation in a bit. But yes, we will leave off this episode here. This was the 30s, plus 1940, I guess. And the 4th episode of our longest game series, which brings us to more than a third of the way through. There's so much left. Oh, God.